Oh, that was late.
Hey guys, this week the 6 on my team are Truex, Logano, Larson, Blaney, Chase, and Suarez. For the rest of you, better luck next week.
She's missing out, dude.
Yeah.
The all-new NASCAR Fantasy Live. Visit nascar.com/fantasy and build your team today.
The road to $10,000 starts right here and right now. From the virtual World Center of Racing, this is the opening race, round 1 of 18 from the 2018 NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze Series iRacing Series, where from high above the Daytona International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to RaceSpot TV's coverage of tonight's Daytona 250 on iRacing Live. We're alongside myself, Evan Pasoko. I'm joined by Randy Cheneth in the broadcast booth. Tim Terry's going to be joining us over the course of the year. He'll be with us in 2 weeks' time come Atlanta. Our RaceSpot TV producer Hugo Louise is downstairs. Randy bringing us to everybody for 100 laps and 250 miles tonight, where we get it all underway.
And really, what other place would you want to kick off a championship like this? Such a fun track to do. So many different variables can come into play. And, of course, the big wild card that happens at Daytona every year. Everyone has a chance to win. And we've seen that over the years that this championship has run, because only one driver, I believe, has won this race multiple times, and that's been Ray Alfala. Everyone else, they've just been trying to get a second victory.
James Finetti is as well the only driver who's ever won a championship in this series on multiple times, as we come back from what was a very exciting end to the 2017 campaign. Randy saw the winner-take-all finale at the Championship 4 format kick in from Homestead in Miami, in which we saw a first-time champion crowned in Ryan Luza. He joins the ranks of Ray Alfala, Kenny Humpy, Michael Conti, Tyler Hudson, and Richard Towler as champions in this NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze Series iRacing Championship.
And, I mean, it was an amazing run from Luza all season long. Came in as a rookie through the qualifying championship the year before and ran all the way through last year in that NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. All championship long. He was very dominant, very fast, and he really stepped up the mark once we got into that playoff format deep into the season. And, well, that's when you need to be good, and that's when he was good, and because of that, he walked away $10,000 richer and the ability to call himself a NASCAR sanctioned series champion.
Just that, as always, is we get this series kicked off from the high banks at Daytona International Speedway, and happen to be standing alongside with Chip Weil, president of Daytona International Speedway. Chip, first off, we're very appreciative of your time. Thanks for being with us. You guys have been very busy over the last month and a half or so, and Speed Weeks continues on the sim side of things. This track has been very popular over the last couple of weeks, and I know it's a driver favorite for us, and we are happy to be here. What's it like being the president of Daytona, and of course, you know, all of the enthusiasm people have had over the racing season getting underway in these last few weeks, and on the sim side of things as well?
Yeah, no question. It's such an honor and a privilege to be associated with the Daytona International Speedway for what it means not only to NASCAR but to all of motorsports. And you know, for us to be able to host some of the world's biggest races, both on the stock car side as well as the motorcycle side and the sports car side, has truly just been such an honor for all of us. And yeah, like you said, the last couple of months have been extremely busy for all of us at the racetrack, starting with the Roar, which happened the first weekend in January, all the way through the Daytona 500 on Sunday afternoon. We have been nonstop, and as soon as we finished Sunday night, my groundskeeper and his team were out on the ball field pulling up sprinklers because we started delivering dirt yesterday to get ready for Supercross. So it certainly is, the first quarter of the year is certainly a doozy, but that's what we do, and we're really, really excited about all the things that are going on at Daytona.
Obviously, the virtual iteration of the Daytona International Speedway doesn't see as many changes, but it is one of the most popular tracks on the surface. It has been for years, and I don't see that changing really anytime soon. It's a staple marker at the start of the NASCAR year, and I see it being the staple marker for our season opener for quite some time. We're really seeing, though, this big surge in esports, and particularly on the iRacing side of things with sim racing. How does that play into promoting a track outside of your big events over the course of the year?
Well, no question, it's becoming more and more important each and every day. I mean, we were just talking in the waiting room, me and two guys from iRacing, about how we can convert one of our suites into an e-gaming area. And, you know, that's a conversation that all the leadership at ISC talk about on a regular basis. In fact, over the weekend, we had an eSports trailer right out in front of the Speedway, and we hosted an e-gaming tournament. So, you know, these are the kind of things that are going to draw new fans to the sport. I can tell you, I'm active on iRacing. I love being a part of it, and I like coming to Daytona and Talladega because, you know, it's all about strategy and being with the right person at the right time, and you know, it's so real. And I worked on the race team side of the business for 12 years, and we used iRacing as a tool time and time again with our drivers, especially if they hadn't been to one of these racetracks. We'd ask them to come in and get on the simulator and make some laps so that they knew where braking points were. They knew what to expect when they got on the racetrack for practice, because, you know, as you know, practice time is so valuable to get your car dialed in for the race, and iRacing has been an incredible tool that all the teams are starting to use.
You know, the Speedway has gone through quite some significant changes in the last couple of years, and you and your team are workhorses, so I'm sure we're going to see plenty of exciting things to come. What's in the future of Daytona International Speedway?
Yeah, I'm looking at your live stream now, and it looks like it's the old one. It doesn't have the stadium dialed in yet, but that's okay. It's fun to see it kind of. I saw the seats on the backstretch, which brought back a ton of memories for me. But yeah, you know, we just finished a $400 million renovation to the Daytona International Speedway that has completely transformed how both the competitors and our fans view coming to an event, and we're certainly proud of that. But with that investment, we need to continue to look for different opportunities, some non-traditional opportunities to use the stadium. And we're hosting a triathlon this December, which is going to be incredible. First time we've ever hosted an international triathlon at the stadium. We hosted American Ninja Warrior last year, right out in front of the brand new stadium, which was incredible. And you know, we've hosted Global Rallycross. We host a country music festival, a 3-day country music festival on Memorial Day weekend, the Country 500, which is certainly an incredible event that, you know, uses everything but the racetrack. So, you know, people don't know that the Daytona International Speedway is busy about 315 days a year with some sort of racing activity on the surface. So, our team stays busy, but you know, everybody knows what Daytona is. It's an international brand, and everybody wants to be a part of it.
We always introduce the tracks at the start of the broadcast, and tonight it's Daytona. That's all it takes. We're very appreciative of your time, Chip. Again, thanks for being with us and giving us your time. Enjoy the race. I think at the end of the day, we're all race fans, and we're ready to have a good time, but we appreciate you chatting with us for a little bit, and hopefully we'll be able to talk again down the road.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Big thanks again to Chip Weil, president of Daytona International Speedway, for joining us. We'll have a couple more special guests joining us over the course of the night, Randy, but at the end of the day, we are here to kick off the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series, and the first step is to introduce you to the starting grid. Cars are on track. Let's go trackside and take a look at your RaceSpot TV starting grid. Pole position for tonight goes to the 37 of Chris Overland. His Ford will bring us to the green flag, and he will be accompanied on the front row by the number 11 of Jimmy Mullis. Keegan Leahy rolls off in third position tonight with Michael Conti to the outside in P4, and Nicholas Shelton rounds out your top 5.
2 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series champions in the top 6. Ray Alfalo rolls off 6 with Jarlkin in the 7th spot, Colton Davis 8th, Derek Bordeaux 9th, and the newest champion, who's going to roll off in 10th. That's Ryan Michael Luza.
Nolan Scott rolls off in 11th position. He's joined on the outside of row 6 by 12th place starter Brian Schoenberg. Taylor Hurst gets unlucky number 13 tonight. We'll see if he can go to victory lane from there. Chris Shearber next to him at 14th, and Matt Musa is 15th.
Bobby Zielinski in the 2 is going to roll off 16th with Jake Sturgios in that 17th spot. Joe Lorello P18 with Brandon Pipgrass 19th, and Ryan Lowe, he's going to round out your top 20.
Continue on through the field tonight. 21st is Nick Ottinger, 22nd for Logan Clampett, Zach Novak 23rd. Tobias 24th and Casey Kerwin through the top 25. Alex Bergeron will start tonight in 26th. Dylan Duvall is 27th. Andrew Fayash the 3rd and 28th, with Corey Vincent and Adam Gilliland 29th and 30th.
Rounding out the rest of your field, Casey Tucker is in 31st. Marcus Richardson, someone who has won this race in the past, this season opener, he is starting 32nd. 33rd, you have Brad Davies. Christian Challoner, 34th. Timmy Hill, 35th. Kenny Humpy, 36th. Michael Guest in 37th. Phil Diaz, 38th. And rounding out the 39-car field tonight, David Rattler in the 31.
Look top to bottom of your RaceSpot TV starting grid. It is Daytona International Speedway. 2.5 mile length means it's racing for 100. Tonight we will elapse 250. Start to finish. What makes this racetrack what it is those 3 stories of 31 degrees of banking. It is, of course, one of the more exciting races of the year. And we are set to get this thing underway as the field rolls into quarter number 4. Race car is going to make the sharp left-hand turn down to the safety of the pit lane, and we are going to get set. As always, so happy that you're joining us on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Field going to be in the hands of the 37 Chris Overland. He'll take the green flag and kick off the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series as we're racing from Daytona.
Screaming into corner number 1, all 39 cars for the first time as they hit the high banks, and Chris Overland down on the bottom trying to work that momentum down low. This is where the politics are going to begin to start. Try to hook up with your teammates, hook up with your friends, and try to move your way forward. This is where car placement starts to get important.
First time down the Daytona Super Stretch to turn number 3. Speeds already at 193 plus miles an hour for the drivers on the front rows. Chris Overland wants to get the first point available for 2018 if he can lead lap number 1. You would expect the inside of the racetrack to be right on board right now with Ryan Luza, champion for 2017, as he tries to maintain a top 10 running spot as Overland leads lap number 1. The outside dropping it back about 2 car lengths, which is what you expect right out of the gate. We'll try to build some momentum up and make a challenge, though. Still a good number of cars up there, keeping it side by side throughout the field. The top 17 cars at the line, still within 1 second of each other.
That's what you expect at these big 2.5 mile plate tracks, especially at Daytona as they head down this long super stretch for the second time. We know that the bottom is going to be really, really quick based on what we saw on Sunday, but will these guys be able to make something work up top? The 11 of Jimmy Mullis is holding strong out there, and he's working themselves through 3 and 4 and on towards the first of the short shoots for the second time. He fell back to about 3rd or 4th compared to that inside line, but he's pulling up alongside Keegan Lee in that 24. He's going to cycle through in 3rd right now, but that top groove not going away the way you might expect. Those guys are really fighting hard up there to not get freight trained.
And you really have to if you're not going to be aggressive and use the draft, the side draft, and all of the tools that you have at your disposal at a racetrack that lets you race 195 plus miles an hour all the way around. The outside of the racetrack's going to drop back pretty quickly. So yes, the inside line still with that 2-car length advantage, but the 11 didn't go down to the inside, neither did Conti. I think even if they wanted to, probably would have been hard-pressed to find space down on that double yellow, but you do have that 3-car group leading the way with the winner Ray Alfala, obviously very familiar to having success in this series and here at Daytona. Mentioned right off at the top of it already, he's the only driver to get multiple wins at this track in this series, winning in 2011 and most recently in 2015. The drivers who have won here include the likes of Marcus Richardson, Alan Bowes, Kenny Humpy, Adam Gill, and Jeremy Allen. Oh, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2010.
A lot of competitive names, and even some names you may not expect to be running up near the front in most of these races in this championship, and that's not a slight to them. It's just one of those things where plate racing is its entirely own thing, and a lot of people have the specific skill set. We see that in the real world. We see that in the sim as well. As that top groove is starting to drop off, it's just 3 cars right now, the 11, the 6, and the 1 as they come across start-finish line once again, and off towards corners number 3, 1 and 2. They're going to be heading for the 5th time.
At number 5, it works. Still everybody good. All 39 cars who were slated to take the green flag have done so. All but 2 of them are in this lead pack. Only Jake Sturgis and Joe Letterello have dropped back. It's not an uncommon thing to see. A lot of people want to stay at the back of the lead pack, but you see the 20 and the 38 running in 38th and 39th position, respectively, way back of the pack. Don't want anything to do with the draft down just lap number 5 and 100.
Yeah, that's basically the big thing here is they work themselves through corners number 3 and 4 once again, and everyone's still trying to fight to get single file. Those 3 cars up top still doing a good job to hang up there as just a trio, Evan, and that's a little surprising to see so few cars deal so well with that big train of cars down along the bottom. Those guys are going to be really working hard in this thing, trying to maintain at that speed, and 11 car pulling up alongside that 37 Chris Overland, who's led every single lap thus far in this one. That's going to be Jimmy Mullis trying to get the drive off down the banking. Let's see if maybe he can get a push from that second car in line and maybe lead this train into corners number 3 and 4. It doesn't look like it. Six Aconti's trying, but not quite close enough.
And Chris Overland's doing everything that he can. It's difficult to lead that lot on the inside of the racetrack. You don't have as much control over things as you would like to think. You can maybe feather the throttle a little bit, make sure that Keegan Leahy's staying on you, but a lot of the responsibility of the speed of the inside of the racetrack falls on that second car in line. The 24 Leahy, who's obviously giving the push to the 37 to Chris Overland. The 11, the 6, and the 1 continue to lead the charge on the outside of the racetrack as they run at the moment, and they have separated themselves quite a bit from the rest of the cars on the outside of the racetrack. Really, they're the only ones up towards the front right now on the outside. There is always strength in numbers. As you see the 11 Mullis get a big run out of 2 and down the super stretch once again. 3 cars is enough to keep these guys there, but is 3 cars enough to make a pass for the race lead against everybody else stacked up on the bottom?
I think we might see eventually some people come up from that lower groove. Of course, we're going to see people get aggressive once we start talking lap number 96, 97, 98, once we get really deep into this thing. But the fact that those 3 cars are being so strong up there, it would make me as a driver, if I'm on that bottom lane, decide to hop up there and maybe work with them. Maybe I can move my way forward a number of spots and maybe just get out of line a little bit. The fact that those guys are so strong, that's a group I might want to be a part of. At the same time, it's a long race, 100 laps, 250 miles around this Daytona International Speedway, so you want to be patient as well and don't want to get over aggressive over early.
And I don't think it's much of a surprise either that it's the 37 Chris Overland leading this race. He calls himself a super speedway guru. He enjoys this kind of racing. Somebody who's been doing sim racing since the age of just 12 back in 2009. The driver based out of San Antonio, Texas, continues keep the pressure on the 11 to Jimmy Mullis up on the outside of the racetrack. And I don't see these guys up top really falling way back. They might not pass for the race lead, but as long as you're staying up there well within contention, some guys on the outside really haven't had as much luck, like Colton Davis. He started on the outside of row 4, but he's back at 11. So all of those cars that you saw behind that group of 3 up top, most of them have blended in with the cars on the inside. If you weren't able to do that, you've gone all the way to the back. Not something you want to do early at a race like Daytona.
Is one of those things where the start of a race like Daytona is we get some live views from Mr. Nolan Scott, see him chatting with teammates as he's working himself, trying to at least do this field. He currently runs in the top 10, running 9th right now. It's just one of those things where every driver's mindset is going to be different, and especially on these plate tracks, people approach them differently. Some people, they like to go to the back of the field and they want to try to avoid that big incident that we know is likely going to happen. Other people, they like to get aggressive and get to the front. Everyone, pretty much for the most part, I think, doesn't like being in the middle. But that said, when you're having 39 cars, someone has to fill in the spots, going from about P number 10 all the way back to 30th or so. So, yeah, you don't really have much in terms of decisiveness, as long as I think a lot of people, where they're currently running right now, just a big decider of if they wanted to get to the bottom. Most people wanted to get to the bottom, and because of that, they just basically cycled in wherever they could.
Now 10 laps in the book so far. I guess it's never too early to talk about the pit strategy here at Daytona, because yes, qualifying up front is important. 9 of the cars who started top 10 still sit there right now. Colton Davis is the only driver who hasn't. He's only in 11th position, but it is not the end-all be-all like it may be at some of the other tracks that we're going to see on this 18-race calendar for 2018. Clean in and clean out during green flag pit stops may be the biggest thing. And if this race stays green throughout, looking at a 3-stop strategy to get home.
That's what we saw on Sunday, Evan, for that season opener. We saw one of the big deciding factors for that race, which pretty much went caution-free, only one yellow in the middle. We saw a lot of issues on pit road. Most of the spins and most of the incidents we saw came down on pit road. So for all these guys, that's the big thing for me. Don't overcook it getting onto pit lane. Don't push into the grass. I'm more than okay dropping a second or two being safe on the pit road rather than trying to pick up half a second or a second trying to be quick onto it. So just be safe. Get yourself down in the box. Get yourself down to that pit crew to be able to take tires, be able to take fuel, and get back out there on the racetrack safely rather than prioritizing doing the absolute quickest.
As you can see, obviously running afternoon conditions here in the iRacing service from Daytona International Speedway. It's 76 degrees, which is realistic weather conditions to what you're seeing down in South Florida at the moment. It means that it's 104 degrees, though, down on the track itself. And as we continue to run laps, we're going to put more rubber down on the racetrack as well. The racetrack is going to heat up more and more, so the handling, not something that immediately comes to mind when you're thinking about a plate track, but on a hot, slick, and new surface like this Daytona International Speedway is, it's definitely going to be a factor on the longer end of those 40-lap runs.
Definitely want to be taking care of these cars. We go to RaceSpot picture-in-picture once again. You be taking care of the tires and pretty much everything. You don't want to be overcooking it. Yeah, a lot of people, they just see this Daytona International Speedway and say, yeah, it's steeply banked, pretty much easy flat all the way around. Thing is, those spoilers have gotten small as the rule changes have come in over the years, and because of that, cars are a little bit more squirrely. And like you just said, Evan, when things get hot, things get slick, and the last thing you want to do is be cruising around in a pack of 39 cars around this Daytona International Speedway with those tires, especially those rears, getting slick underneath you. You don't want to be loose getting to the midpoint of this race or this first run, as we're probably about 30 laps out from where we expect our first green flag stop.
In that 500-mile race here at Daytona that we saw over the weekend to kick off the NASCAR iRacing Series campaign on the official side of things, a series that anybody on the iRacing service can participate in. Drivers were very keen on making sure that they kept their race cars in one piece to the end of the race. And, well, this race is, quote-unquote, only 100 laps. Still a long way to go, 250 miles at that half-full race distance that we'll see over the course of the year. And everybody seems to be in agreement that they're not letting those, the energetic nature of this first race of the season get to them. Everybody single file with the exception of those three cars you're seeing on the outside of the racetrack as they head into turn number one. A lot of the time, the fact that it's a season opener and the fact that you're racing at Daytona, it clouds your judgment a little bit. You don't make the smartest or soundest moves. So far, so good. We've got plenty of time for things to get crazy. As a challenge for the outside, and it is going to happen. The 11 car tucks down in line, and Jimmy Mullis going to go to the race lead at lap 15. First lead change tonight.
Now what's going to happen to that top groove? There's two champions up there who've been pushing that groove of Michael Connie and Ray Alfala. They just pushed Jimmy Mullis basically to that race lead, and he's going to lead his second lap in a row, and that's important. The fact that three cars can do that should make people be very, very aggressive and basically be in the situation of, oh, well, maybe the top can work. And Chris Overland, he's going to think about hopping up there with one of his teammates of Ray Alfala, and is he going to quite get there? He's worried about getting clear of Connie, and he is going to hop up to that upper line. So Chris wants to try to get that lead back as they come off of two and down this Daytona super stretch once again. See him getting a big shove, big head of steam. He's going to drop to the bottom. Is he clear? Yes, he is. So Chris Overland immediately back to the race lead as they roll through 3 and 4.
And a very well-executed move by the 37 car. When he steps out of line, Jimmy Mullis is essentially without somebody pushing him for that 4 or 5 second period of time, and he's falling back to the 24. You can see Leahy was catching him just about as quickly as that outside line was moving, and that allows the 37 to jump up, step in front. That was a very nice move, and Chris Overland showing that he wants to be out here and lead a lot of laps. Most laps led out of anybody at Daytona, 68 for Michael Conti, and the 37 to Chris Overland racking up the numbers early. The outside is not going to give up, though. You see the 24 car, Keegan Leahy, now going to the outside, making sure that we've got 3 cars topside at all times. I think it'd be tough if it was just that 6 of Conti and the one of Alfala, so we'll see if the 24 can capitalize here.
Maybe it shouldn't be a surprise you see Chris Overland trying to kill the momentum of that upper line as they come now through the tri-oval to begin lap number 18 of 100 tonight. Maybe it shouldn't be a surprise that that top groove is looking so well. You have that 6 of Michael Connie up there, who's led the most laps of anybody at this race in the past, and you have Ray Alfala, who's won at this race the most of anybody in the past as well. So those are going to be 2 drivers who know how to make that upper groove work. if anyone's going to be able to figure it out. So while some are maybe surprised to see that top groove working, maybe not everyone quite so much. You got a bit of bobbing and weaving in the back. I think that was the 22. I saw it dipping below that yellow line. That was Ryan Lowe in the background. I think just trying to look up ahead, get some clean air into the nose of that Toyota Camry in the midfield as Chris Overland is going to still continue to lead here. That 24 car of Keegan Lee is going to try to get a push once again from Conti.
And you can see it right now as they come across the start-finish line, almost contact with the 11 and the 37, essentially pushing each other down low as you're on board. With the driver up on the outside of the racetrack, that 24 machine of Keegan Leahy. A little bit more separation between the drivers up on the top of the racetrack compared to the drivers down on the bottom. Again, there's just simply more speed in having more cars down low. And the guys down on that inside, if you're third, fourth, fifth, and anybody else from there on the back in line, you're going to be constantly lifting to keep a little bit of a safe distance whilst also still being fast. The guys up top have to work a lot harder, get a lot closer to the back bumpers if they want to be able to counteract the fact that they've got 3 cars and the guys on the inside of the racetrack have nearly 33 cars.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. We do see a bit of a second upper groove coming in. I'm trying to see who's actually starting that. It looks like it's the 28 car. The blue one has got a handful of help up there. That's going to be Brandon Pipgrass as he runs through the top side of the racetrack. I think we also see Bobby Zielinski hopping up there as well in that bright orange and white VRS number 2. So some people are getting a little bit more inspired to maybe try this upper groove, and it's going from 30 cars down the bottom, maybe down to about 15 or 16, as I see a half dozen jumping up to that top side of the racetrack as they head into 3 and 4, and those guys are making good headway trying to close the distance on that one of Alfala.
About halfway until we head down pit road for the first time tonight, and that too, Mashita Zelensky is leading that charge up on the outside. Might still have a race in this thing, and this could really benefit the 24 of Keegan Leahy if these guys are able to catch up and we get 2 big packs going, one on the inside of the racetrack and one on the outside of the racetrack. Mentioned at the top, though, we've had a couple more special guests up in the booth with us, and now happy to be joined by Brian Everidge once more, the CMO at Old World Industries, and the folks behind the scenes at Everything Peak. Brian, we appreciate your time always every single year chatting with us at Daytona, and very happy to have Peak and yourself with us again for another year.
Well, flattered you have me. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
We've got a nice new logo for this season. I know Peak has been very busy in your title sponsorship of the NASCAR Peak Mexico Series. What's new with Peak since the last time we had an opportunity to chat with you?
Well, a lot. I mean, as a company, we've always got new things going on, but we're always trying to expand our interaction with fans and with consumers. We've like you said, expanded our involvement in NASCAR through our entitlement, not only of the iRacing series. We continue that on. We're going to continue that for a long time, but also in the Mexico series. And we were just in Daytona, obviously over the weekend, but earlier in the week on Thursday, we won an award, the NASCAR Multicultural Partner Award, which was very cool for all of our work that we're doing with the U.S. Hispanic community, as well as what we're doing in Mexico and a number of other things. That was really exciting for us.
Peak has been an important part of this series for the last 4 years. It seems like every single time, we come back to Daytona, we're talking about how eSports and the iRacing platform continues to grow. What do you expect to see with this series into the future as you guys continue to be a part of it, as eSports continues to grow and that momentum doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon?
No, I mean, like a lot of people listening to this broadcast and racing today and the folks involved, I knew early on that eSports, and especially what we're doing with iRacing and the group over there, had nowhere to go but up. And I think we're kind of at the tipping point now where we're hearing a lot of energy around it. We love being associated with the brand. We'll continue to do that. We want to find ways to activate that sponsorship offline as well, through some of our retail partnerships and all that. But, certainly getting more and more engaged wherever we can to continue to promote iRacing, to continue to promote eSports. It's a fantastic way for folks to get involved in the sport, whether it's a point of entry for racing live cars or just continuing to do that as a sport. We're just proud to be part of it.
Of course, you guys have always been able to put those Peak logos on some of the cars here in the sim as well, and seeing Corey Vincent's number 15 entry is going to have Peak and Blue Daffodil, all of the associate sponsors, on board this year. Just tell us a little bit about the commitment as well to making sure that not only you have the logo on the series logo itself, but always supporting the drivers in this championship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're excited to be with Corey. You know, we've been with great drivers in the past. We just want to make sure that we're helping folks get out there on the racetrack and do what we can to keep them motivated to run our colors and be part of our brand. But we don't like just being the name on the billboard. We want to make sure that we're on the racetrack as well. And so what we've got going with Corey this year, we're very, very excited to see what he can do.
And I'm sure we'll see a lot of Peak Antifreeze Blue for a long time coming in this series on Tuesday nights. We will let you get out of here, Brian. We're very appreciative of your time. Before we do, anything that is upcoming with Peak that you want the folks at home to know about?
You know, just as I say every year, and it's a little self-serving, but we love being part of this sport. We have a big involvement in NASCAR, you know, racing across the board, as well as our NHRA racing and other motorsports. Anything folks can do when they're at the shelf and they have to make a choice, you know, we would love for them to choose us. Helps me keep my job and helps us be able to have the funds we need to support the things that are important to them. So, you know, we just really appreciate everyone's support along the way, and, you know, enjoy racing to everybody this season. Looking forward to watching.
What I can say as well, whenever I'm at the store, I always get a kick out of seeing the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series logos at all of those products. Brian, again, we appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for, as well, your support of this series. And here's to talking to you next time out.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
A big thanks to Brian Emrich, the Chief Marketing Officer with Old World Industries, the parent company of Peak Antifreeze, the title sponsor, of course, on this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. You've been watching all of the action throughout, and the pack's getting a little bit more fun. How about some 3 wide up front? The 17 car of Taylor Hurst going to get forced out of line. That was the Monterey Alfala who stepped up for the inside of the outside line. All of that going on while Michael Conti has gone to the race lead in this St. Randy through 27
Oh, we got
laps.
a car loose down the inside. 21 car. He's almost around, and we got a caution flying as well. That was Jarl Tien, who's loose through the tri-oval. So first caution's going to fly here at Daytona for the season opener. Not sure where it started, but I saw a couple of cars get loose heading down to the tri-oval as they were getting racy out in front.
And I think it might have happened right where that 3 wide was happening. Just mentioned that it was the 17 of Taylor Hurst going the wrong direction, opening outside of the racetrack. And we will get a second look at this one on the RaceSpot TV replay. And things were just a little bit tight. You're on the board with Jarl Tien. He got tapped by the 28 car, got a little bit out of shape. That was the 28 of Brandon Pipgrass, and Tien gets loose. It obviously spins down to the inside of the racetrack. It's when that car then looked like it was going to spin back up on track that everybody tried to jump ship. And of course, when you're coming into the front straightaway, they utilize that big front stretch grass area to avoid the accident. And I think we get away relatively okay, considering how many cars could have been piled up in that one. After contact in the middle of the pack, things don't normally end up with just one car in the wall.
That's amazing, the fact that where that accident happened started up about your top 10, maybe top 15 or so, and the fact that all those guys behind were pretty much able to avoid. I think you're right. We only got a couple of cars that really got big contact, but this is going to be a pretty nice place for this caution to fly, Evan, because talking to some drivers before the race, fuel numbers we were hearing were about 40 to 45 laps or so on a fuel tank. So to have this yellow fly now means you can just go to the end from here on one more stop. So pretty much no risk, I think, of this really turning into a fuel mileage race unless we get a really awkward caution in about 20 or so laps time.
Yeah, just as opposed to doing the 40, 40, and 20, you get the 20 or that shorter run out of the way now. A couple of drivers struggling to get into their pit boxes. Looks like the 24 machine and the 11. So Leahy and Mullis took a couple of times to get them lined up nice and straight. It is going to be Michael Conti, though, who goes with the 4-tire call. Obviously, fuel on board. He wins that race off of pit road. And every single car coming down pit road into that yellow, Shelton off second, Leahy, Overland, and Taylor Hurst. Going to be the first 5 drivers back up onto the racetrack. So tying it back in with what we were talking about earlier with the track temps and tires, everybody wanted 4 tires and fuel under that stop. No major issues under the yellow.
That's not a surprise to me whatsoever, Evan, the fact that these guys are going to be taking full fuel and tires. As some of the other tracks, once we get deeper into the schedule, we might be talking about undercuts and tire strategy. But here you want to take 4 tires when you have the opportunity, and you want to take a bunch of fuel on board as well. There's no point in trying to play some strategy call right here, right now. Get yourself up the front. Yeah, you'll be light on gas and maybe can run out there for about another 15 or 17 laps or so, but then you're going to have to come down pit lane all by yourself if we don't get a caution, and it's not very fast around this Daytona International Speedway when you don't have any drafting partners.
When we talk about Jarl Tien as well, the driver who was at the center of where all of that broke out, it went spinning down through the grass. He's only going to end up at about P10 at the moment. Those positions are going to shuffle around a little bit, but he didn't have to stay down at the pit lane to get much damage repaired, and he's in a pretty good position. So Jarl Tien looks to be okay, and we should be able to go back grade once we get to that point with, looks like all 39 cars who started it still in this thing.
Yeah, it's very lucky and very nice. His lights are going to go out in the pace car, and I'm stood by with Mr. Tony Gardner himself. We've been talking about having some very important people coming up and joining us in the booth tonight. And Tony, we talked to Chip just a little bit ago, and the advancement of iRacing and esports as a whole in the sim racing market. How fitting do you find it that a track like Daytona that has historically been so big across so many different forms of motorsport, from NASCAR to the Rolex to Supercross, Rallycross is raced here, how fitting that you get the support you do from a racetrack such as this?
Yeah, it's awesome. I was just at the Daytona 500, so it's amazing. To see 300,000 people at that race, and then the next day getting Chip Weil, president of Daytona, here on iRacing. So it was pretty cool of him to join us, and I want to thank him for that, and also thank Brian Emmerich for his support in this series and being a great partner.
Talking about the advancement, I mean, I've been producing races for 5 years now across a couple of different broadcasters, and it's amazing the way things have grown, and so many different series, so many different people, so many different entities getting involved these days. How is it like working in the background behind the scenes of all that and seeing everything grow?
Yeah, it's been quite a ride, and it is. The growth has been amazing. We have grown. The last 12 months has been our highest growth rate. We've got 5 of these World Championship Series that are going to be going on this year, with NASCAR and 4 other ones. So it's awesome and it's exciting, and yeah, we're busier than ever.
That's always good to hear that you guys in the office are busy. As we're going back to green flag racing here, lap number 31 of 100. So we're going to cut this a little short, Tony. But before we let you go, a lot of new names up near the front. We got cars turned around. 23 car going down through the grass. So I think I'm going to hand this over to Evan, as we might say green. That was Michael Guest I saw spinning. He's going to try to get back in line, and he's going to be able to do so. So I think we're going to be safe as action kicks off. But a lot of new names in the championship, Tony. But some of the old guard running up top. It's been a clean race up until that caution. You have any picks or favorites to win tonight?
I'm going to go with Logan Clampett to win tonight. But anyway, I want to thank, real quick, I want to thank all of our members and all the fans. We couldn't do this without them. So a big thanks to members, to Peak, to NASCAR, and look forward to a great season.
Thanks for joining us, Tony, once again, president of iRacing.com. Always a pleasure to race, to speak with you as field races across the start-finish line once again, and you continue to put on all the hard work that makes all of us so happy and so proud, Tony.
Well, thank you, and thanks to RaceSpot as well. They do a great job, and thanks to you guys. You guys do a great broadcast, and we're excited for the year.
We're excited as well, equally as much, if not more so. But Evan, we avoided calamity somehow there on the start. Well done by Michael Guest to keep that thing off the wall as he slid down through the grass, and importantly not get up into anybody as they ran down into one as he re-merged with the field.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that's about as close as it can get, and almost another, one that we dodge after that contact that actually led to the yellow. Another incident where that could have been a lot bigger than it was, and everybody's able to kind of regroup themselves and were able to stay green. This did, though, separate everybody a little bit quicker than what we saw earlier on. Remember on that first drop of the green flag when we got this race underway, outside line only dropped back maybe 2-3 car lengths. They lost the numbers, but they didn't swap back as much. Right now, it's about a 6-car difference as you see them head down the back straightaway. The first driver on the outside is now 17 to Taylor Hurst. As I say that, he goes to the outside of the racetrack, jumps in front of the 2 of Bobby Zelensky. So the outside's still very much there. If they can keep that many cars up top, they should be able to put a run together. But of course, they have to make up for the car lengths they lost. And well, speaking of drivers who have found success tonight, Chris Overland thinking about it. You could see on board with the 17. 37 wasn't willing to commit up top, and now Overland's going to have to stay down low as Hurst leads this charge. Now up to P4 on the outside.
After that opening run, and especially with this quick caution, we're getting deeper and deeper into this race. People are getting more inspired by that top line. 37 of Overland gets an opportunity. He immediately steps up a lane to get up there, and Bobby Zelensky is actually going to do the exact opposite and go from the top down to the bottom in that blue and, or excuse me, in that white and orange VRS number 2 car. They roll through corners number 3 and 4 once again, working 1/3 distance in this event. So people getting racy here, Evan, as we get deeper and deeper into this thing, and that's really interesting to me, considering the fact that I would have thought you would have wanted to get aggressive early, especially those guys in the back, and maybe pick up some spots, but that's sort of the exact opposite of what we saw.
Exactly, and you know, everybody's going to be on a different strategy as well. So you're going to have teammates obviously working together. There's a couple of new teams that have been formed this season that we'll get to know better as this season goes on. And if their strategies don't necessarily line up, things can get very discombobulated in the center of the pack when you got a group that wants to take it easy, wait to attack, and somebody else who thinks, hey, it's a restart. I'm not going to be this close to people 2 by 2 for quite some time. Let's get up there and let's get those positions sooner rather than later. This time by 35 of the 100 laps on the board tonight going to be completed. Michael Conti has been in control since we went back green flag racing after the caution break. And well, I said 37 of Overland was thinking about it last time. That bright yellow Ford Fusion now does make that move from the inside of the out, so he leads the outside line, trying to get back to the race lead.
See if he can get himself up there. That 17 car is going to bail on him. Taylor Hurst is actually going to take that spot on that low line that he just opened up. So 17 car leaving him out to dry as they roll into 3 and 4 once again. And well, 37 car going to try to get as much help as he can from the 17 to 34 and those other handful of cars up top. There's a few more cars, about half dozen or so, behind that lead group, but they're not quite been able to get there and get caught up and close the gap. 24 Keegan Lee thought about moving his way up the hill from that second spot, but that gap to the 37 of Overland had opened up just a little bit, so he decided not to do it just yet. Wants to wait for that bright yellow Bernard number 37 for that gap to close up just a little bit more, and let's see if that's exactly what's going to happen. As expect Chris Overland to get a run down this long Daytona super stretch. I think we're going to see that number 24 car jump out of line if Chris gets close.
Those runs for the outside definitely do come and go. If you're on the outside, that back straightaway, the super stretch, is probably the best place for you to make a move, and that's why when we saw him get passed up originally, he went to the outside of the racetrack and got back to the race lead. It's because he timed it when he knew when to do it. Went to the outside on turn 2. You get the run coming down the banking and that whole super stretch to be able to obviously complete the pass. So 37, not his first rodeo by any means. But I don't know if he's going to be the first car to get up for the challenge. Keep an eye on that 8 at Nicholas Shelton and keep sticking his nose out, thinking about it, gauging what the outside line is doing. They are definitely making up some time, and you'll see them getting another good run here between turns 2 and 3. Let's see if Shelton wants to jump up there with him or if he stays down in line. To be honest, third in line on the inside of the racetrack, not the worst place to be at Daytona. Only 38 laps in. We'll see if he wants to get out, though, and lead a lap.
Again, driver's mindset plays such a huge part in racing at these sort of racetracks. Some people like to just cruise. Other people want to get to the front. Other people are okay running around the back until we get to about half distance or so, and then start getting really aggressive, moving their way forward. Chris Overland has a bit of momentum now up on the top side of the racetrack. So that 8 car of Nick Shelton, if he wanted to jump up, he doesn't have the opportunity for now, but he should be getting it after they come off corner number 2. And let's see if that lime green car is going to do so as they head down the long back straightaway once again. And doesn't look like that 8 car is going to be a taker, as Overland gets another big push there up on that top groove. And that's what's something is interesting to me here, Evan. We saw 3 cars, 4 cars up there in that last run be so strong up top, especially with the likes of Conti and Alfala really being the two cars doing a lot of pushing on that upper groove. Now that for some reason they have more cars up there, but they seem to be struggling more than they were earlier on. I think now there's a couple guys up there that maybe not quite doing as good of a job as getting formed up as just the trio or quartet we saw earlier, because that top groove is suffering just a little bit.
When you look at the guys that you had up top as well earlier in this race, people have been racing in this series for years together. The likes of Derek Bordeaux and Matt Goose is sprinkled into the mix. Obviously, series veterans and know exactly what they're doing, but maybe not as much experience working with those counterparts around them directly. Again, you look at the schedule for this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series, and Daytona opens it up, but unlike on the rear world side of things where you go to plate tracks 4 times, this is it. So it's not necessarily something that you dedicate a whole lot of time to. Now again, in the last couple of weeks, and I mentioned it when talking with Chip Wild, president of Daytona International Speedway, we kind of have our own little bit of a speed weeks here on the surface itself as we go 3 wide, lap car on the inside, a little bit tighter than these guys would have liked to see, but they've definitely been racing at this track a lot in the last couple of weeks. So they're fresh, they know what they're doing, but it is difficult to get the outside going. You see even Overland again still thinking about, do I drop down in line? He wants to stick it out up top. We'll see if the call pays off as that Tua Zelensky fills that gap, and now it's just the 37 and the 13 with a little bit of a gap. They've got some company though. Here goes the 11 of Molas and the 18 of Zach Novak. Novak thinks better of it, goes back down, and Volas thinks better of it and goes back down. So there's a lot of guys, Randy, that look like they want to go up top. They're just not willing to risk it yet at lap 42.
They're just sort of dipping their toe in the proverbial water, I think is the best way to describe it. And eventually you're just, I think, going to have to risk it and get up there. It's still a little bit early, so if you really do value that track position, you may not be doing that just right here, right now. But you're right about these guys being really experienced, especially when you talk about some of these guys who came in through that Pro Championship and they just got themselves qualified into this series. They ran through Daytona. That was the last race of the qualifiers. Then, like I said, we just had the season opener for the NASCAR iRacing series that kicked off on Sunday. Caution flies. This would have been deep in the field. Is not quite sure where this is happening. I don't see it yet, but caution for the second time at Daytona.
A lot of smoke, and it's the 27 of Brad Davies. So second yellow to come out on the night, and about equidistance of runs between the first yellow and now. About 20 laps later, we slow things down. We'll take a second look at this one on the RaceSpot TV replay. This was a couple of guys that had lost touch with the pack. The 27 car at Davies all by himself got caught up to by the 38 and the 20, and it looked like they wanted to go high and pass him. I think Davies has got some damage. He's a little slow. Watch that 38 car, the orange and red car, go to the outside of the racetrack, and when Letterello does that, Davies blocks. He tucks in line behind him and hooks him around. So very aggressive driving from the 38 machine, and Brad Davies with a damaged race car, maybe a little bit slow, and I'm sure the damage to the back of that car didn't help out at all when those two got together, and unfortunately Davies goes sideways. Very minor accident for Daytona's sakes. When you're going at 200 miles an hour, you don't normally just break it sideways and catch it once more, but that'll be what slows us down for the second time tonight.
Sort of an unfortunate, silly little incident there with Joe Letterello getting in the back there of Brad Davies, but we should see the entire field once again, Evan, come back down on towards pit road. And it's going to be one of those things. The 6 of Michael Conley is going to work themselves up there. We might get some strategy. Some people may opt to not come down pit road. As I see Keegan Lee, he's going to stay out. Taylor Hurst, a couple other drivers as well. So the interesting calls by some of these guys. And I actually think I might like this, Evan. Take the track position now, because regardless of if you pit now or if you don't, based on when the last caution flew, you can still get to the end on one tank of fuel. So I think these guys who are staying out, I really, really like this call.
Yeah, a lot of drivers stay out, and again, the caution wouldn't involve hurting pit strategy a whole lot, because if you pitted now, you'd still have to pit one more time to the end. That's exactly what we said last time. That last yellow put us in a position after everybody pitted under the caution flag to be able to make it to the end on one stop. So the drivers pitting just now under caution flag conditions are not going to be able to go 56 laps to the end of this race. They are going to have to pit again. So the drivers who are staying out figure, well, if we're both going to have to pit again, I'll take the track position. So this is really an experiment in how important those tires may be, because fuel-wise, I'd like the call of staying out as well.
Yeah, I don't think pitting here really makes sense. The tires are still relatively new, and you're going to have a couple people who, someone like the 17 of Taylor Hurst, he's going to pick up a lot of spots, go from running 13th at the time of the caution up to that second spot. I think a lot of people just gave up some good track position. That said, not a huge amount of cars stayed out. I think it's about a half dozen, maybe 10 or so, so your track position isn't going to be completely slaughtered, but I don't know. I definitely agree with you right there, Evan. Staying out is definitely the right call.
As we work under the second caution flag of this race, this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Peak Antifreeze and Coolant, the official antifreeze of NASCAR and a proud title sponsor of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. The season opener here tonight from Daytona International Speedway. So this is really going to shuffle up the running order. Leahy was right up top, so it's not a big jump for him. Hurst goes to second, Bordeaux, Tien, and Scott to the top 5, and then Clampett, Luza, Guest, Conti, Ottinger through the top 10. A lot of big names now cracking up front.
That's the big thing I'm talking about. You don't want to give a lot of those really experienced guys a free pass to get their way forward, and especially put them behind you. That said, Michael Conti did a very good job on pit road to come out 9th. So even though he did pit, he's only about a half dozen or so spots down from where he was running. So well done by the 6, and well done by a couple of other guys who are up near the front as well.
Getting ready to go back under green flag conditions. Obviously, every single time a lap goes by, this race is going to get a little bit more intense when we get set to go back under green flag racing conditions. And before we do so, we will take a quick opportunity to step aside and get a word from our friends over at the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series.
Things can get rough out there.
The bumper to the back of the 24!
You think you got the brass?
I proved it last season.
That was last year. Now we've got young blood ready to take out the old. Start your engines. It's time to race.
It's been a fun conversation inside of the NASCAR ranks, especially leading up to the 2018 season. The youth movement in racing, the likes of, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, William Byron, and etc. The young guns, and of course this series is something that we've spent a lot of time, and to be fair, we'll spend a lot of time over the course of the year, Andy, talking about the series veterans, the Contis, the Alfalas, the Luzas, the champions. But nothing says that you get a spot in this series and you stick around. Very much a little bit of a youth movement, if you will, of its own on the iRacing side of things. And the qualification to qualify into this series has changed for 2018. As we stepped aside last year, told you that the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series would be running. Top 10 drivers from that one getting locked into this field. But this season, iRacing has introduced the Road to Pro Series, which allows a larger field of drivers on the iRacing surface to compete a full-length series like this over the course of the year in the trucks, which would then allow them to get into the Pro Series. So the door is wide open for somebody on the sim to come and make their name for themselves here as well.
That's a big thing that I love about this. We're getting ready to go back to green flag racing. You get so many new names into all of the World Championship Series we have on the sim that come in every single season that run through those Road to Pro formats. Of course, the NASCAR Road to Pro getting changed up in its format, which is always good to see as these guys get ready to hit the green flag. And, well, it's of course great to see the young guys coming in the real world as well. Happens about every 15 to 20 years. You get a big cycle of young drivers, and we're hitting our generation cycle right here, right now.
Biggest it's ever been, and we hope that you all get involved if you're not already on the iRacing service. We're ready to go back green, though, as the green flag flies, and the 17 of Taylor Hurst was not moving at all, and that puts Jarl Tien inside to out. Not sure if Control's going to like that move, but he goes to the inside line, and a very spread out restart up front compared to how tight they've been packing them in up until this point as we go back green at lap 47.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some question marks on that one. I saw a few cars moving their lanes as they got to start-finish, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. They head down this long Daytona super stretch. Once again, 17 car of Taylor Hurst really waving the flag of that top side of the head in towards 3 and 4. He's going to get some help from Tony Garner's pick to win this race, the 4 of Logan Clampett, as they go running through corners number 3 and 4 and off toward the tri-oval once again. Those two are going to try to get hooked up. A little bit of shuffling as well down there on the bottom. I think that was the 23 car of Michael Guest, who got a little bit out of shape and got it back underneath them as Logan's trying to get locked up there with that third place runner of Jarl as well as Taylor.
Well, and I mentioned some of the new faces, some of the new teams for this 2018 campaign. You see that number 4 Toyota of Logan Clampett. A lot of news in the last couple of weeks from the folks over at Richmond Raceway who ride on board with that number 4 here tonight as they've stepped their toes into the sim racing world with their team at the Chaos Crew. A lot of drivers associated with that team that we'll have plenty of time to talk more about as the season goes on. Clampett goes inside to out, and at 17 just can't catch a break. Taylor Hurst now falls back to the 14 car on the outside of Nick Ottinger, the driver associated with the Chaos Crew and advertising for the Richmond Cup race on board his number 14 Toyota as well. Let's see if those two try to get together or if Ottinger's going to try to push Teen up to the front here, because the outside's struggling more so on this run than I think we've seen so far tonight.
Now, there's a couple new names up there, especially with that 14 car of Nick Ottinger. We've not seen that Camry be up near the front thus far this race, and now that he is up there, I'm not sure, and I haven't seen him up top all day, really. I think it's mostly been down around the bottom. He's been running about mid-pack, just sort of cruising as they run through corners number 3 and 4. As we approach the half distance in this one, that'll come the next time through once they get across this entire 2.5-mile Daytona International Speedway. Those 3 cars still somewhat struggling, but they head across the line. Now it's going to be that 24 who leads another lap, and that top line, like you said, Evan, still struggles to stick together.
And they're going to need to get something to go in here if they're obviously going to be able to make a move for the race lead, but we're still not at that point. It doesn't matter if you stayed out. It doesn't matter if you pitted under the last yellow. You still have to come down pit road to get fuel to get to the end of this race. We're about 10 laps outside of that window. So at around lap 60, 65 or so, we will see that group of drivers who's only pitted once, but then obviously stayed under that last yellow to come down. They're going to be good on fuel to the end. Everybody here still has to pit, so I can't justify going 2-3 wide yet. So if I'm some of those drivers we were talking about on that restart there, Randy, trying to get their way to the inside line as soon as they can, can't blame them. Still think it's a good call. We are 50 down and 50 to go from Daytona, but that is still a long way from home. That being said, as we cross the halfway point in tonight's race, let's take a look at our iRacing, a midway race break brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks from all around the globe. And in the fast-paced world of eSports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR and many more. Lap number 51 in the works. Keegan Leahy is going to be the first one to the start-finish line as he leads us at the halfway point. Derek Bordeaux runs in second, and Taylor Hurst, first car up top, scored in third position. Jarl Tien's up to fourth spot. Couple of big movers, though, behind there. Nick Ottinger's gone 21st to 5th. And Logan Clampett has gone 22nd to 6th position. Just behind him, Nolan Scott runs in the number 7 position. Ryan Luza looking to defend his championship into tonight. He runs in 8th position with Michael Conti 9th, and our biggest mover, Michael Guest, in P10.
Bobby Zielinski in the 2 is currently in that 11th spot. Colton Davis is in 12th. Another big mover tonight in the 5 of Dylan Duvall, 27th up to 13th. And Christian Challoner, 34th up to 14th. Marcus Richardson, 15th. As things are happening here to that number 13 car, Derek Bordeaux. See him slow out there on the racetrack in that number 13 car. He's got it cruising, though. Not sure what happened to him, but as we continue to head down our midway race break, Casey Kerwin in 15th with Chris Overland, Jimmy Mullis. Those two have gone the wrong way. Those two started first and second, respectively. They now find themselves 16th and 17th with Brian Schoenberg, Nick Shelton, and Kenny Hope rounding out your top 20.
And it looks like the 13 is going to be okay, but drop down, and it's going to shuffle up the running order. He's going to end up back down here somewhere. 21st, though, is Matt Busa. Ray Alfalo runs in 22nd. He's dropping backwards on the outside of the racetrack. Corey Vincent runs in 23rd. Zach Novak is 24th, and Alex Bergeron in 25th at the moment. Andrew Fayash in 26th position. Ryan Lowe is 27th, with Timmy Hill 28th. Cody Bias 29th, and David Rattler rounding through your top 30.
Now going down through the bottom end of your field, Jake Sturgios is in 31st, Casey Tucker 32nd, Chris Shearburn 33rd, Joe Letterello in 34th. We saw him involved with that incident earlier. Philip Diaz in 35th, Derek Bordeaux 36th, Brad Davies involved in that incident with Joe Letterello. He runs 37th, Adam Gilliland in 38th, and Brandon Pipgrass, the only driver currently scored 1 lap down, well, 7 laps down. He is in 39th.
Is still on track, though. Everybody on track through lap number 53 for your race leaders. That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And you can get more information as well at iRacing.com/membership. So we saw that 13 drop way back. Bordeaux was top 10 when we said his name. He was also P36 when we said his name as well, so everybody was able to shuffle up a little bit. And to be honest, if we gave you a look top to bottom, Randy, every 10 laps, it would be a completely different running order, just the nature of the beast here at Daytona. But now that we are past halfway, we're no longer counting up. We are counting down in the laps. 45 laps to go. This time by knocking on the door and getting inside of our fuel window.
Yeah, we're right on the outside edge of it, and that's what I was going to say. We saw in that season opener on Sunday, people took the early opportunity to come down pit road rather than leaving it till the very end, and it really helped them, and I think I'm going to agree with that here. I think if you have a couple of teammates that are still in this, if you're either close to being hooked up or maybe even if you're not hooked up, you want to come down pit road, I think, and you want to get fueled up early. You should be able to stay on the lead lap because you're not going to need a full tank of fuel here because, well, the guys who just pit, they're going to have a bunch of fuel on board anyway. So it's going to be a very short fill to top up the tanks, and even those guys we saw stay out, they're going to only be coming in at about a third tank or so. So you're not going to be needing to fill the tank 100% if you catch my drift. It's only going to be a 85% fuel load is what you're going to need to take on. So because of that, it's going to be a short stop. Should be able to beat the fuel out as we take a look at Zach Novak as he currently runs his way through this field, trying to work his way forward, and currently runs himself in the mid-pack in 28th, 5 spots down from where he started this one.
And another thing to account for in that pit strategy conversation is that those who pitted under the caution flag got a little bit better tires on their car sooner than those who stayed out. Now, obviously, when we see drivers down pit road, if you're filling up the tank all the way, you got enough time to get at least 2. You'll probably stay, just get the 4 tires. That's what we saw under yellow, but a lot of drivers I would expect might go with just the 2 come the end of it all. But as well, if you're in that group that's only got to go 20 laps maybe at the end, maybe you just don't take tires at all. It would be a stretch, but you're not stretching it, 2 complete cycles with the way that those yellows chop things up as well. So there's a lot of small things that you can do. Save a couple of seconds here and save a couple of seconds there. Still think though the biggest time saver and the biggest thing that drivers do that loses them time under green flag pit stops is getting in and out cleanly. I think at the end of the day, that's the end all be all, as we have a challenge for the race lead. Taylor Hurst has got no friends up front. The 24 Leahy and the 3 Alusa both go to the outside. They're not both going to be able to go in front of him, but the 24 Leahy steps down, goes to the race lead. That might not even last long because the 3 come right back at him topside, side by side for the number 1 spot.
Defending series champion, he wants to lead some laps here in the season opener, and he's going to come through, and I think he's just going to miss it by 18 one-thousandths of a second as they now head down into corners number 1 and 2 for the 59th to 60th time here. And when you're talking about the pit stop, Evan, that's absolutely right. We haven't seen these guys be really pressured on pit road. We've seen a couple pit cycles happen under caution, but we haven't seen these guys have to do green flag pit stops just yet. That's going to be the mark where these guys really pick this one, and if this race goes green to the end, I think your race winner is going to be coming from a group of guys who gets on and off of pit road the best.
We're almost at that point. The guys up top obviously aren't concerned with coming down to the pit lane anytime soon. You can't pit 2 by 2. I mean, you could. I would recommend against it. That is how things get out of hand quickly at a racetrack when you turn to slow it down 200 miles an hour to pit road speed here at Daytona, which is just 60. But you can tell that the 3 wants it. You can tell that the 14 of Ottinger wants it. That 6 of Michael Conti has been in this thing throughout the night and runs 3rd off by the outside of the racetrack. He hasn't been as physically aggressive, if that's a good way to put it. But look at the 14 car of Ottinger. Not sitting around. That was not a lane. He made one. Crosses up the 3 of Lusa, and the defending series champions got a one-way ticket to the back of the pack up top.
He talked about that 17 of Taylor Hurst not having any friends. Ryan Luza, what does his Facebook account look like as they head down into the tri-oval once again? He must not have very many friends at all as they work to complete another lap. And who's going to lead this one? It's going to be the upper groove of Nick Ottinger who's going to lead that lap. And that's important to me, Evan, because this is now when you want to start testing on that upper groove. Can I get nose to head and lead a lap here to potentially finish out the run to the checkers? That's one of the big things, because if you're in a situation where you have to be on the bottom, that's not very good in terms of flexibility. I want a car where I can beat that inside line to the stripe, even if I'm up top. 14 car, though, he's going to get pushed ahead by that 6 of Michael Conti and drop down and take that race lead. So now that 6 car will be ahead of the train that is now 4 cars strong. The 3 of Ryan Luza still trying to tag the back of it and catch back up, but I think he's actually going to drop down and get down to that bottom line. So by the 14 of Nick Ottinger, I'm a pretty happy man that I can take the race lead like that. Of the 24 Leahy, he's going to immediately jump up and try to take it back.
And the 24 car went up top. You saw the 14 walk up the track with him, try to stay in front of him, but eventually you can't keep going up and up, or that 17 of Taylor Hurst was going to fill the gap down low. So now Ottinger goes on the defensive. It was a very aggressive move that put him to the race lead. He's getting a very aggressive push from the 17, and oh, you want to talk about barely. The 24 comes down. He was in front for a moment, got loosened up, back up the hill he goes, and that's the 14 of Nick Ottinger keeping the right foot down, not let the 24 push him out of the way.
Good driving there by both drivers. Nick Ottinger, you have the race lead at Daytona. You're leading that inside line, which we know has been the strongest all day long. You do not want to lift, and that 24, Keegan Leahy, well, let's just say he picked the margins very, very well. It's slim, but he did a good job to hold on to that thing when he eventually got loose. A lot of people would have lost that thing. A little bit more defensive driving coming from Ottinger as he goes up the racetrack, tries to take the momentum away from that upper line and immediately drops down to the bottom. We're just going to be 37 laps to go here in just a moment. It's still a long way to go, I think, for driving being this aggressive, but it's good to see someone be this feisty for this race lead.
It's definitely been ramped up a notch. 5 cars at the outside of the racetrack. We're going to go 3 wide again. Lap car down low. That's the number 28 machine of Brandon Pitgrass, who falls a 9th lap down. The field goes high, accordions back down, and without incident inside of that lead group up at the front of the field, that I think I'll agree with you on the notion that they are the most aggressive right now. They have been all night long and still have to make a pit stop to get to the end. Is the risk worth the reward? All 39 cars who started this race are still on the lead lap, so very disciplined to this point.
That's really the big thing here, is when do you come down pit road? Because right here, right now, the fuel window 100% officially open. So if you want to opt to come down pit road early, now I think might be the time to do so. No takers just yet, but it's going to be a big question mark for us now. Every time they come off corner number 4, is anybody coming down pit road? Is anyone coming down pit road? And it's important for 2 reasons why doing that I think is the right call. For one, when these guys eventually do come on towards pit road, for those who are doing it late, if you've already been out there and up on the racetrack, you're going to have a big head of steam while they're trying to get up to speed. Very good opportunity for you to just blow by on that outside while they're still struggling to get that car wound up to 200 miles an hour. And even if things do not go green, if we get a caution, it's always nice to be the car that's already pit, because while everyone else in front of you is going to come down pit road to fill things up, you're just going to say thank you very much. I'm going to cycle to the race lead, hopefully win this thing as we get closer to the end. No takers as we come to 66.
And there's plenty of, risks that are involved with pitting at Daytona, but one of the good things is if you've got a nice clean stop you're going to be able to stay on the lead lap. Can't say the same thing for a lot of the tracks that we'll be going to where lap times are sub 30 seconds. You pit, you're down a lap, and obviously that's the concern, because if a caution comes out, you'll be trapped a lap down, not here at Daytona. Now, the prerequisite to consider when saying that is, of course, you need friends when you come down to the pit lane. Yeah, 2-3 cars is okay, but there's speed in the draft, so it makes it very difficult for somebody to take a unique strategy call and try to break away from what everybody else is doing, because while everybody else might be on the more standard call, they're going to have the speed in numbers.
I see a lot of people have been trying to get to that bottom groove. That tells me that we're going to be expecting to see green flag stops sooner rather than later. Normally, if people are thinking about staying out, they'll start getting feisty and aggressive trying to get to that top line, but we've seen a lot of drivers who've been up top all day get to the bottom, and now for the first time all day, we are single file through this field. I'd be very surprised if we go past that pit lane entrance the next 3 laps and not see people come down pit lane. Remember, there are some drivers who stayed out at that last caution. They still owe us pit stops as well, and well, that window is pretty much in the next 5 or 6 laps that they'll be running out, because we went green when they last came down pit road around lap 30.
Still no takers. You can see the 24 Keegan Leahy give up a lot of positions to finally find a spot in line. He tucked in line in front of the 3 of Lusa. He is now 12th position after just a couple of laps ago, battling for the race lead in the number 24 Chevrolet. There are some cars topside. It is a line led by Chris Overland. The 2's up there as well. That's Bobby Zelensky in this one, and again Nicholas Shelton up on the outside of the racetrack as well. That's about it as you see him come down the super stretch. Everybody else down low, getting set to come down, get service. Again, everybody on track has to make one more pit stop. The question is, when do they make that stop? The field strategy changes from there.
So cross pit entrance once again. Is anyone going to make that call? I don't see anyone ducking down there just yet as they just take a look at the field. So still everyone's going to stay single file and in line here as Ottinger continues to lead the way. 17 of Taylor Hurst is still looking a little bit racy in that second spot. You still have the likes of Clampett, Conti, and Jarl Tien up closing in on the, well, rounding out that top 5. So big question mark still. When are people going to hit pit road? Is that the trio trying to make that upper groove work? That's Overland and Zelensky. You can't see the third car in line there, but lap traffic again becoming a factor for these guys here, Evan, as you got Phil Diaz, Casey Tucker, Joe Letterello, and Jake Sturgios. Those 4 drivers not having a great race as they head down towards start finish, and a bunch of race cars getting ready to blow by up top.
And they're really the only pack of cars not in this lead group. First through 30th position, last time on the line separated by 2.6 seconds. Then the difference between 30th and 31st, 20 seconds. You take a lead back, Eric Bordeaux, Brad Davies, and Adam Gilliland are by themselves. And then there's that 4-car pack of Sergis, Letterello, Tucker, and Diaz, 34th through 37th position. So an overwhelming majority of the field is still up front. And again, that goes to show you how disciplined these drivers have been to this point. But as we get set to complete lap number 70, and take 30 laps to go, this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bed Liners, official bed liner of NASCAR. Past pit road entry again. The takers in the big group.
I have a slight correction to make. I've been saying that no one's come down pit road. That quartet of drivers of Sturgios, Letterello, Casey Tucker, Phil Diaz, those are SimCube NX Racing guys, and those 4 drivers have pit. So they're doing exactly what you want to do. You want to get yourself all paired up and get out there on the racetrack. And while things are looking scary right now, Evan, there's a lot of cars that are going to be barreling down on them in just a moment with a big head of steam. A lot of those guys are going to be coming down on towards pit road in the next couple laps. And then we know everyone else in that group owes us pit stop as well. These 4 drivers are going to be clear and out there. So they're going to be really our first indicator of how the early pit stop works, is they're trying to maintain lead laps before these guys all come down pit road.
And that's the challenge, is they have less cars. We were talking about speed in the draft. They didn't lose their lap, but they're pretty close. As you can see, the pack looming in the distance as it starts to catch up to them. These are the back 4 cars in the lead lap. That big group of cars behind them is the leaders coming to lap them. Just to get some speed perspective, race leader to Ottinger last time, the 44.620. The lead car in that other group we've been talking about, Jake Sturgis, with a 45.112. So they are slower, which is going to hurt them. Is it going to be a difference where they lose the lap? I don't think we're going to be out of pit road for that long for that to happen. But it is something to keep an eye on, that if you lose a couple of tenths here or there, those are going to add up, and you might find yourselves 2 or 3 seconds off of the lead pack when everybody gets back out there at the very end.
That's the big thing. These four may have called it a little bit too early here because they've been rolling around this racetrack at about 4 to 5 tenths off every single lap. And really here at Daytona, you cannot give up an advantage like that to the entirety of your competition. We got a car around. And next, guys, they might have just made a great opportunity of yellow flags as he cart down in the infield section trying to see who it was. I see the 15 and I see the 29. So that's Andrew Fayash as well as Corey Vincent. They went facing the wrong way down this back straightaway, but we stayed green. So the NX guys who thought they might have gotten a break, not going to get it as cars are now heading down pit road. About half of your lead group coming down for green flag stops. First time in the 2018 season.
You saw the contact that a replay there. 29 got sent around over the nose of Alfala as everybody came up the racetrack and tried to avoid the lap car. You're taking a look now at pit lane as a big group of cars is down, led by, looks like that's the 17 of it, Taylor Hurst. So what's the call going to be? 2 right side tires up. Obviously, you need to get enough fuel to go the 26 laps to the end of this race. It will be a 4-tire call for the 17. He led them down pit road, but he is going to be far from the leader off of pit road. The tire strategy for the first cars off pit road is Michael Guest and Zach Novak throw a little bit of a twist into it, and they all of a sudden rocket to the lead as the rest of the pack follows the 17 out.
I think that's a big mistake coming from the 17, taking 4 tires here. This is the part of the race where you only want to take 2. You're not going to be filling the car up. You only need 25 laps of fuel to make it to the end. So I think having that a short stop is going to be the big important thing rather than having all 4 tires. Now, where are those 4 NX cars and how are they doing compared to the rest of the field? You see Jake Sturgis, he's breezing by the 11, and this is what I was talking about earlier, talking about having that momentum. Those guys coming off pit road, they're still running about 192, 193 miles an hour. Those NX cars up top currently doing 200, so they're already wound up them up to speed, and they're also now catching a couple of their teammates. Nolan Scott, the next racing driver, is going to be someone who I'm sure is going to try to get in line with these 4, and I think Logan Clampett is just ahead of this lead group as well. Look for him to potentially jump up top as well, as he's been looking to potentially win this race. So those guys so close to losing a lap, Evan, and they're going to be cycling to the front of the field for the cars that are currently pit.
And now you have the race leaders mixed right in with the drivers who have already come down to the pit lane. The 14 still leading this race. Nick Ottinger just a little bit behind the group that you're seeing right now on your screen. He's now tucked in line. Half of the cars in front of him are still on the lead lap because he has not passed him. But he's also gotten around a lot of people who pitted in this pack. So this is where it gets difficult to keep track of who's on my strategy, who is going to be coming down pit road with me. And even though the drivers who just pitted came down in a mid pack, and sometimes that's dicey, slowing it way down those 140 miles an hour to make pit speed, you have everybody coming in at once. This group now of cars who is yet to pit, they're mixed and intertwined with all of these cars who have already pitted. You might not be as in sync coming down pit road, and that could be a big difference.
That's going to be the big thing. It's going to be a big question mark. These guys that have just pit, they're going to be so aggressive when it comes to taking spots. Because look at those next guys. They're being so aggressive to leaving 2 of their teammates out to dry as 2 of them drop down to the bottom. That's, I believe, Jake Sturgis and I believe Letterello in the 38. They just want the track position here and to get down to that inside groove. They leave 2 of their drivers up top, basically out to dry. They're going to try to find their way back down to this inside line, and that's the big thing. The aggressiveness right now, sometimes even teammates aren't worth staying with. The track position is so huge, and leading this inside line as the rest of the leaders get ready to come down pit road, likely in the next 7 to 8 laps. That's going to be the big turning point, and like I said earlier, getting on and off of pit road this late in the race, this is going to decide, I think, who wins this thing.
And you're on board with Nick Ottinger. He is your race leader, but you wouldn't be able to tell so if we had an overhead camera angle. He is in the middle of all of this, but the number 14 is leading this race. All of those cars in front of him. See how he's in the middle of this pack? Everybody in front of him is still on the lead lap. Everybody behind him, unless they're on the same strategy as him, got lapped. It is very difficult for him to tell who he is racing around with for position at the moment. Now, the fact that we've all ended up in the same group relatively, those who pitted or blended it back in with the same amount of cars, makes it very difficult to tell who is who in all of this. The car leading this group was the 20 of Jake Sturgis, but we've got 3 more cars now. Michael Guest also on the lead lap. Zach Novak also on the lead lap. So there's a lot of battles going on right now for position, and a lot of them not for position. Just keep in mind that that orange and blue 14 is your race leader, and he is in the middle of about a 30-car pack.
That's the big thing. Now, when is he going to come down pit road? Let's see if he thinks about it right here, right now. They come off corner number 4, pit road entry on the left. No one of that group of drivers who have yet to come down in pit road, of which there are 9 of them: Ottinger, Conti, Kerwin, Schoenberg, Oberlin, Zelensky, Bergeron, Lowe, and Busa, the 9 cars that still owe us pit stops. All of them drive through it right here, right now. So they're right now taking the gamble here, Evan, of can we lock a number of these drivers potentially 1 lap down if a caution were to fly. And I don't think they're going to be able to lock very many because there's so many cars that have pit already in front of them. They're not going to be able to pass all those guys, but you look at some of the names that are currently scored 1 lap down: Jimmy Mullis, David Rattler, Jarl Tien, Corey Vincent, Derek Bordeaux. If you can pray for a yellow and lock some of those names all down 1 lap, that's a good day here in my opinion.
And we're side by side now in this group, so it's not even just a big pack of cars, single file. Side by side racing now throughout. The 14 is your race leader. Michael Conti, the 6 behind him, is in second. All but about 9 drivers have come down pit road and pitted. We're waiting on Ottinger, Conti, Kerwin, Schoenberg, Overland, Zelensky, Bergeron, Lowe, and Busa to come down pit road. So out of this big mess, 9 of the cars still need to pit. Everybody else already has pitted and gotten the distance that they needed to eat out of the fuel to make it to the end of this race. So for them, it's simply 19 laps to go this time by. A little bit more complicated for those who have still yet to pit, because inside of 20 laps to go now, they're stretching closer and closer to their number and should be in any lap.
That's the big thing that I love about these guys that pit early. They know, you know what, how many laps can I do? I can do X amount, be it 42, 45, and then 40. Come down at that many laps to go, put fuel in the tank, and all you have to do till you get to checkers is mash your foot to the floor and hope you can make things stick. These guys that are currently out there on the racetrack themselves, or if they have crew chiefs, whatever they might have, they might be doing some math here, trying to get the math right. And if they get the math wrong, that's going to be the difference between coming out with the leaders and coming out of the tail of that lead pack.
Still waiting for those pit stops to come. Obviously, everybody who needs to pit is dropped down in line. You can take a look at the top of your screen how everybody actively runs on the racetrack. But Ottinger in the 14 still yet to pit. This would be a big headache if a yellow flag were to come out and obviously would shake things up in this race. Lap number 83 is now in the works from Daytona International Speedway. And while the race is probably the most intense we've seen all night, you're looking at side-by-side action. That's not for the race lead. It's the battle for 18th spot between the 17 of Hurst and the 20 of Sturgis.
So many people getting so aggressive right now, and the thing to keep in mind is, yeah, they're running for back-end spots right now. It's not very far up the order. You think of the likes of Jake Sturgis and some of those other drivers. Those guys owe us, once these guys eventually come down pit road, those are going to be people fighting for the race lead when that eventually happens.
As the excitement continues to build, you've got your seat, but I don't think we're going to need it here as we close down to the end of this 9th installment of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series opener tonight from the Daytona International Speedway. We'll take one more quick opportunity to get a word from our friends at NASCAR.com and how you can get tickets to a race near you.
Section PU 402, row 41.
Jimmy Johnson, the fastest gun in the West.
Section 104, row 4.
Blaney out of the first win.
Section 25, row 3.
What a year for Bubba.
Section O, row 25.
Keselowski's gonna win at Talladega.
Section 156, row 4.
Kurt Busch to the lead on the backstretch.
Section 233, row 1.
Martin Truex Jr. wins.
You get a seat, but we doubt you'll ever use it. Grab your seats at NASCAR.com/tickets today.
Back from Daytona Beach, Florida, NASCAR.com/tickets, where you can go to get tickets to all of the 2018 National Touring Series events near you. As we bring the action back down to the track here in Daytona Beach. Drivers have come down pit road, a good number of them still waiting for Ottinger, Conti, Schoenberg, and Lowe to pit. I think the 22 machine just now blending out is also pitted, so only 3 cars left to come down pit road. Watch for a couple of slow cars in front of this big group to try to merge in, because this may, depending on how quick the stops are, this may become what was for 18th position or so, become the battle for the race lead. As we saw the 22, the 10, and the 37 come down and pit, so 3 of those 9 cars completing their service.
Those guys are coming out just ahead of this pack, and let's see how they're going to form up, because it's not going to be a very big pack of cars. I see a lot of stragglers as they roll off of pit road. There is a group of cars with the likes of Challenger, Timmy Hill, Kenny Humpy, Cody Bias. Let's see these guys come off of 4 in this lead pack. Are they going to come down pit road right here, right now? I think yes. The answer is yes. 14 of Nick Ottinger. He's off towards pit road. I think Conti and Schoenberg, they're going to be doing so as well. So the final trio we've been waiting for hits pit lane, and can they get it perfect? It's only going to be a short fill, so they might have the opportunity to maintain the race lead once they get back out onto the racetrack, but they have to be perfect. Don't slide your box. Don't get caught speeding, as everyone's going to try to get in cleanly. Michael Conti, last one to hit the box. He's down there and in clean.
The 14 machine race leader is already leaving the box. Nick Ottinger talking about the amount of fuel you need. Fuel only. Tight with the 7 coming out. They're all going to leave relatively together. That 6 of Conti, though, going to lose touch because he comes out of that number 4 pit stall. That's good for yellow flag pit stops. Not very good conditions under green. So Ottinger probably going to work with the 7 of Schoenberg. No tires. Fuel only for the drivers who stretched it all the way to lap number 86, and they are currently running in the race lead. They are leading this race down the back straightaway, but there's only 2 of them. So that big pack is coming with a lot more speed. The 14 and the 7 got to get hooked up and get some of the speed back, or they're going to get blown by when those cars get to them.
Right now, I think we need to be really paying attention to this second pack. You have the 10 of Casey Kerwin, Bobby Galinsky, Chris Overland, Matt Busa, and Ryan Lowe in that pack. They're currently reeling in the 6 of Michael Conti, who lost the tail end of those guys who just saw a cycle on towards pit road. That's going to be a 6-car train, and they're going to really reel in that duo that we see out in front. So we approach 10 laps to go. It's 2 cars fighting for the lead now. Well, let's say not fighting just yet. They're trying to work together as hard as they can, but try as they might, that second group is going to come with a full charge, a full head of steam as they come off now down this back straightaway, and see the closing rate already on those 2 race leaders. That 2 of Bobby Zielinski already looking to the top, maybe try to make something happen.
In about 5 laps, we're going to have a 30-car battle for the race win at Daytona. But in the meantime, that 6-car pack has caught your race leaders, Nick Ottinger and the 7 of Brian Schoenberg, 1 and 2 at a quarter to 4. But here comes everybody else. 2 of them going to tuck in line. 3 cars tuck in line. The 6 of Conti, the 10 of Kerwin, and as well that 34 machine of Matt Busa. But staying up on the outside of the racetrack, the 2-car of Zielinski and the 37 of Chris Overland, your pole sitter from earlier on tonight. So now they have all merged basically into one group. That big pack is coming. They're about 1.5 seconds off.
Everyone's really charging here. The question is, I think you might have enough cars in this lead pack, if you play a little bit nicely, that you should be able to manage that gap to Ryan Lowe and that 22 car currently running the NACE spots. Right now, Matt Busa, and I believe the last car in line to take that back, it just got shuffled to Chris Overland and Bobby Zielinski, so that gap to that second pack is going to come down just a little bit. But right now, I believe it's Andrew Fayash who technically leads that second group, as well as Ryan Lowe, Dylan DeVal, Chris Challenger. Fayash is a lap down, so he's not as much of a factor for position, but he can still be out there running work with these guys as they're trying to put Fayash behind them, and that's going to cost them time, Evan, as we're coming to 10 to go. If I'm in that second group who needs to try to close a 1-second gap here at Daytona, I don't want to be having to deal with lap cars who are trying to just keep down to the bottom. I need to be able to get down to that yellow line, lock my foot to the floor, and push as hard as I can.
It was that 22 below who went topside, but you can see the 5 had no intentions of waiting. He just started to push it on Fayash. The 29 now does his best to get up to the wall, and Fayash is going to let this group go, but Ryan Lowe got shuffled out to the outside and all of that. and if nobody goes up there to help him as they stay single file, try to be as coordinated as possible to catch to that group in front, at 22 Orion Lowe dropping back on the outside of the racetrack. This group had been making up time. We got a spinner towards the front. The 10 of Casey Kerwin is sideways, and he's going to get tagged.
It was a 32 car of Kenny Humpy that he just got into. So your 2014 winner of this race, he gets taken out in a late race incident, and this is going to change everything as everyone's going to be stacked up. Nick Ottinger's going to be on the bottom. Schoenberg, I believe, is going to be the driver who leads that upper groove, and we have a inside of 10 laps to go restart here at Daytona. Everything just got thrown up into the air.
Looked like the 10 of Almirola, but it was the 10 of Casey Kerwin. They were both trying to make a move to the inside of the racetrack at the same time. Matt Busa tucked up behind him. They were 3 wide for the race lead as well at the same time, which is how I caught that out of the corner of my eye. And the 10 car comes down. The 34's not going to lift with 9 laps to go in this race, and he comes down just enough over the nose to get himself turned around. Busa continues on. Yellow was out, and then there was nowhere for that 32 of Kenny Humpy, as you mentioned, to go plowing into the side of the 10, and that's a caution flag with 9 laps left to go.
That's never anything you want to have happen, especially if you're Nick Ottinger. If you're anyone in that lead group, you had that 1 second or so gap that you're doing a good job of trying to manage. Yeah, they may have gotten there in the closing last handful of laps, maybe, but you still would have had the opportunity where those guys would have been in a situation where if they were going to fight for the race lead, they would have had to do it on the last lap or two after just closing in with you guys. If you guys are out in front, I like being out in front and maintaining that gap. So right now, if I'm Nick Ottinger, Brian Schoenberg, Michael Conti, Matt Busa, I'm not very happy with what just happened because I had a pretty big margin to everyone down behind, and now it's pretty much been erased. And a lot of people who are out of this, some other names, you think about Overland and Zelensky, they got cycled down to the back of the order. Dylan Duvall, he was in that second group. Alex Bergeron, Timmy Hill, Ryan Lowe, Christian Challoner. A lot of competitive names just got given a green light, and including 2 that I'm keeping my eye on. Yes, it's going to be a low lap count restart, but Ray Alfala, only driver to win this race multiple times, he's going to roll off 14th, and defending champion Ryan Luza, he's going to roll off 16th. I cannot count those guys out as we're going to be restarting with about 5 laps to go.
You saw not any takers on pit road besides the drivers obviously involved in that accident. This is really going to be the last time, or the only time tonight, that we have drivers out of this race. Again, for the longest point, we had all 39 cars still on track. Curious if anybody is going to drop out of this race because of that. Definitely a lot of drivers down pit road to get some service, but no need to actually come down in pit to get fuel because we just completed that cycle of pit service laps before this yellow flag happened. What this is going to do, though, Randy, is it is going to set us up for a restart right at about 5 laps to go in this race, which, as we like to say, is the point of no return. So it's probably going to end up being when we take the green. If we get a yellow from that point, this race would end. Now, if we get to the white flag, doesn't matter what happens. First car back to the checkers takes the win, but this restart is probably going to be in that point of no return.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a couple people talking about it in the chat. I don't know if there's any way that these guys make it to the end without a yellow. Season opener at Daytona. Everyone always works hard for this race. This is the race everyone knows they have an opportunity to win, and because of that, they crank the intensity level way past 11. They put it to 12 or 13 as one of the lap cars is going to come down at pit road. I believe that is Brad Davies in the 27. Indeed, it is. So not a factor there. Is going to cycle across the line. Let's see if we get the 1 to go signal right here, right now. No, we don't. So it is going to be within that 5-lap window, point of no return. Everyone's going to be slicing and dicing, Evan. We haven't seen that third groove come in. We know typically you don't see it with the current format. It can be really difficult to make that third lane work. But when you're talking about a 4-lap, 5-lap to go restart at Daytona, I might just pin it up against the wall and hope someone comes with me and maybe make something happen.
Of course, we hope that everybody has been tweeting along with us over the course of the race on Twitter at RaceSpot and, of course, on Twitter at iRacing. This is it. This is going to be the final race start from Daytona. We want to know who you think is going to win. Use the hashtag iRacingWCS and the hashtag NPAIS and let us know on Twitter who you think is going to walk away with a win here tonight from Daytona. This ties right back in with the point I made about 40 laps into this race, Randy. Now, these guys are taking it easy, and it's the first race. It's very easy to forget that this is one of the 13 races that you used to qualify for the playoffs this year. Very easy to overlook that. You guys, for those who didn't have to re-qualify into the series, to the Pro Series, they've been waiting, they've been sitting around for a while. You get antsy, and sometimes you make moves that you might look back on and say, I probably shouldn't have done that. Well, feel free to dub that audio over this restart, because at this point, I think all of the strategy is out the window. Doesn't matter who your teammates are, doesn't matter what fuel strategy you were on, you're going to have to make do with what you got, and at this point, it is every man for himself. There's only one checkered flag.
You got one drop week for the first 13 rounds of this championship. There's a total of 18 over the course of this from when we run here from Daytona and head back to Florida and finish things out at Homestead Miami Speedway once we get to October the 23rd. So through those first 13 weeks, cutoff being, of course, at Bristol in August, your worst result can get waved away. And what you just said there, Evan, you do not want to potentially waste that drop week here at Daytona. There's so many difficult tracks up until that point that who knows, anything can happen, especially the big curveball that happens in June at Sonoma. I think you want to have that drop week. If you're someone who you consider yourself a championship contender, and everyone is going to consider themselves one, but there will be some drivers who know they have a more realistic chance than anyone else. I think if you have a realistic chance of winning this championship, you might want to be passive. If you're someone who you're going to struggle to win races, you just put it to the floor and hope for the best.
And the lights have gone out on the iRacing.com official pace car, so this is going to be it. As the field comes 2 by 2 into turn number 2, 95 laps going to be complete. 5 laps left to go from Daytona International Speedway. Row 1 is going to be the 14 of Nick Ottinger to the inside, and the 7 of Brian Schoenberg to the outside. Michael Conti and Matt Busa. Row 2 in 3rd and 4th. With Bobby Zelensky 5th and 6th on row number 3. Dylan Tufal, Alex Bergeron both at race high position, 7th and 8th position. They'll be row 4. Christian Challoner and Timmy Hill have followed each other from the mid-30s at the start of this race to sit in 9th and 10th position. And they will be on row 5. That's just a look at the top 10 of the 33 cars. We're going to bring us to the green flag this time, but at turn number 4, final green on the night upcoming. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def, the official diesel exhaust fluid and DEF equipment of NASCAR. Here we go for the final time. Pace car going to tuck down and in. Nick Ottinger is going to have to defend for a race win from Daytona in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Green flag back in the air. Schoenberg down low off the back.
The 7 car wants the bottom as we have 12.5 miles left at Daytona. In towards 1 and 2, 14 and 7. Up top, it's Matt Busa in the 34. You see him in that Radicals machine trying to work the top side of the racetrack. You have Chris Overland as well working with him, and I believe it's Alex Bergeron in that 35 as well. Overland still trying to give a big head of steam as Busa's going to drop down to the inside and then immediately back to the top side of the racetrack. So 3 cars lead that upper group. There's 2 more a little bit deeper down the order, but they need to find some way to reel in those 3 drivers up top. Now through 3 and 4, 14 machine still leads. That top line is really struggling right now.
Busa wanted to get down and lawn in front of the 2 as Zelensky wasn't able to do it. Stays up in front of Overland. The outside is at a 3-car length disadvantage. 1 down, 4 to go from Daytona off for the restart. Ottinger clear with Schoenberg and Conti behind. Is it going to be the 7 of the 6 cars who jump up top and leave the 14 out to dry? And how long do they wait to make that move? If you're waiting to the last lap, which might be the best strategic idea, you might not get that far. So do you make the move now, or do you sit and hope we stay green to that point?
Everyone's being calm, and I think if I see, right now I'm talking to my spotters, and I'm saying how many cars are up top, how many cars are up top. If I hear that there's a lot of cars up on that top lane, that's when I start being aggressive, because that increases the likelihood of a yellow as guys race each other really, really hard. If they're single file like they pretty much are right now, I think I wait till we get to the end of this, and the fact that there's only a total of 5 cars on that upper groove, there's only 3 or 4 of them that are up near the front, I think that I wait until that final lap, because I think the chances of a caution right now are pretty low until we get past that white flag. I think we might finish this thing under green as they head down this long back straightaway once again, and still Nick Ottinger goes pretty much unchallenged for the race lead.
Outside slips more and more. Now the 2 is Zelensky, the 5 Duval, and the 12 Christian Challenger are clear on the inside of the racetrack. That outside line is only battling for 7th position as we get set to run through turn number 4 once more. Popsicle 6 in the air, this time by the 7 of Brian Schoenberg. Took a look in, took a look out, but he continues to sit on the back bumper of the 14 Toyota of Nick Ottinger for the time being. Where is the move going to come from? And do they get to the white flag the next time around?
The entire field is being so patient as they come off corner number 2 for the penultimate time. Still single file amongst your race leaders. On Sunday, we saw the move come pretty much early. You see some people in the mid-pack, they're jumping up top. They're throwing their hat in the ring, saying this is where I need to make and try to open up an opportunity for myself off of corners or through corners number 3 and 4 for the penultimate time. White flag going to be waving at the starter stand. The 14 of Nick Ottinger coming through the tri-oval. He leads them to the white. Will he lead him to the checkers?
Still single file behind him at this point. Next car to the start-finish line wins this race. As white flag has flown from Daytona. Does the 7 go back? Is he going to make a move up top? Or does the outside line come into play? How wide can Nick Ottinger make the number 14 Toyota? Spinning in the back, no caution. We're going to stay green. It's a big wreck from 15th on back. Everybody else in front unaffected. As the race for the lead continues down the back to turn number 3. Still no move. Ottinger on the inside. Now here comes Challenger up top. The 24 Alehi, the 34 coming with him. And they've got a lot of speed coming through the corner. Here we come. Final time at corner number 4. Schoenberg to the outside. Ottinger throws the block, and he will keep him behind him. Nick Ottinger wins the season opener from Daytona. Blocked him high, blocked him low. Schoenberg gave it everything he had as they wrecked behind them, but Nick Ottinger was able to defend for the season opener win from Daytona.
I think there's a lot of passiveness there that I wouldn't have expected coming to the end here at Daytona. A lot of people waited until they were coming off of corner number 4 to make their moves. That was a little bit late, in my opinion. I would have started setting things up as they come off corner number 2. So many people kept it single file. I'm actually really surprised that people will run like that. But the 14 of Nick Ottinger, maybe equally surprised. He's going to be the beneficiary, and he's going to be a new winner here in the season opener for the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series iRacing Championship live here at Daytona. So that 14 car, a very, very happy man after 100 laps of racing.
Some celebrating to do for the 14 of Nick Ottinger. You see the number 1 car comes up and gives him a tap. That is Ray Alfala congratulating him on getting the win here tonight from Daytona. Ottinger adds himself to the list of previous winners here at Daytona. And sticking with the trend is another first-time winner at the World Center of Racing as he burns it down on the front straightaway. Nick Ottinger wins the season opener of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series from Daytona. They wrecked on the back. They wrecked behind him coming to the line, but he was able to make the back of that Toyota Camry wide enough to thwart Thruenberg's move. Went to the outside, thwarted both of them. And Nick Ottinger had to play defense, and you had to feel like that whole time, Randy, he was waiting for something to happen, waiting for somebody to make a move. It is a terrible feeling to know that it's coming. You just don't know when and where, but he did not miss it when that 7 started to step up the hill, was expecting it, and I don't think he looked out the windshield at all from turn 4 to the line.
Yeah, you're going to be doing so much mirror driving. Half of what you're doing there is looking right up at that mirror and listening to your spotter telling you they're in line, they're in line, they're in line. Okay, they're looking now. Like I said, I'm still surprised everyone was so patient, but you're absolutely right. 14 of Nick Ottinger timed it to absolute perfection. When Brian Schoenberg jumped up to the top, he immediately basically followed him. It's almost like he led him up to that upper groove, took the momentum right away from that 7 car, and that was pretty much all it took. And at that point, no one was going to be a challenger here, as we're going to get your post-race results and then have a look at that last lap incident that happened in your mid-pack.
As the heartbeat comes back down, that's race 1 of 18 on the air. Let's take a look at how they all came home across the start-finish line at the end of 250 miles tonight from Daytona. Nick Ottinger is your race winner. First time for him at Daytona. Brian Schoenberg, you see the final margin, just 0.075 seconds. That's the difference between P1 and P2. A great result, though, for the driver of the number 7 Chevrolet. Christian Challenger ends up 3rd place in this one. Michael Conti finishes exactly where he started. and that's P4. At Keegan Lay, he ends up a very good performance with a resurgence on the outside line and ends up in 5th spot. Bobby Zelensky comes home in 6th position this evening with Matt Busa behind him in 7th. Ray Alfala is 8th spot, Dylan Duvall 9th, and Ryan Lowe rounds out your top 10.
Cody Bias is going to finish in 11th, Alex Bergeron in 12th, Jake Sturgios 13th, Nick Shelton 14th, Joe Letterillo 15th, Derek Bordeaux 16th, Adam Gilliland in the 17th spot, Phil Diaz 18th, Michael Guest, someone who I expect to be really quick tonight, he pretty much struggled, was never really a factor. He finishes 19th, and Casey Tucker, he's going to finish in that 20th spot.
And then continuing on through 21st position is Jarl Tien, and a lot of these drivers are just trying to limper home after the wrecks we saw on that last lap. 22nd ends up in the hands of David Rattler. Nolan Scott is 23rd position tonight. Taylor Hurst 24th, and Chris Shearburn is P25. Ryan DeMichael I should say, is 26th spot. Had an opportunity to win this race, so did Logan DeClampett, who ends up 27th. Not in the cards for them at the end of the evening. Timmy Hill is 28th spot, Marcus Richardson 29th, and Zach Novak rounds through your top 30.
Now towards the tail end of the field, these are guys, things didn't go the way they would have wanted. 31st, the 11 machine of Jimmy Mullis. He was involved in that last lap incident. 37th, Chris Overland. 32nd, Colton Davis. 33rd. Now guys who had bad nights pretty much all the way through. Brad Davies, Corey Vincent, Andrew Fayash, Casey Kerwin, Kenny Humpy, and Brandon Pitgrass. They round out the 39 car field tonight.
Look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV full race results tonight for the Daytona International Speedway. Let's take a look at those final 2.5 miles once more, as Nick Ottinger had to play defense to get the win tonight in the Daytona 250. The restart came with 5 laps left to go, and there was no move yet. Everybody's still single file. You can see the outside line a couple of car lengths off, but at this point it's still the 14, the 7, and the 6 easily leading on the inside of the racetrack. Now when we come down the back, the outside is going to all of a sudden get a big run. You get a couple of drivers who jump up to the outside, and they get a lot of speed into turn 3 and back. There's the 12 car moving up to the outside of the racetrack, and the push comes from his back end as Challoner would get as high as 3rd. But right here, the 2 get sideways, and it's everybody on their own. The 6 actually blocks the top, trying to get around the 7. A look high, a look low. Schoenberg can't get around either, and Ottinger stays in front of the chaos for the race win.
That was just so nice, and talking about the fact that so many tracks are getting involved with sim racing. Nick Ottinger, Brian Schoenberg, Michael Conti, 1st, 2nd, and 4th, the first time out for Richmond International Speedway on the cars. They're going to be very happy campers, and I think that explains why that 7 was so patient, pushing that 14 out front.
Also take a look at what happened with the 11, and Jimmy Mullis ended up limping home in 31st position. Again, all of this going on the last lap wreck in front of him. That was the big one that almost took out everybody from 15th position on back. A lot of drivers bounced around and were able to keep going. He spun all the way around, was able to get back to the finish, but you could just see all of the cars involved in that one on the back straightaway. He might have been the only one to end up going all the way around, and at that point you're just staying in the gas and hoping you can make it back to salvage whatever is possible on points, and that's what you expect. That's why we said once you get to the white flag, nothing matters from that point, and it really looked like they were waiting for that white flag, Randy, before a lot of those drivers made their moves.
That was one of the things that surprised me, especially coming to the run to a finish here at Daytona. For me as a driver, I completely expect everyone around me to get hyper aggressive as we get closer and closer to the end of a race around any of these plate tracks, be it Daytona or Talladega. I think I would have started looking to that top groove a little bit earlier, just in case a yellow would have came out to lock out the field and not give you an opportunity to move forward. I'm still surprised that no one jumped up to that top lane early. That said, there were a lot of people hooked up together on that bottom of the racetrack, specifically the likes of, like I just said, Ottinger, Schoenberg, and Conti running the way that they were. So a little bit surprised to see that, but at the same time, people are always going to work together.
And what we also say about the plate tracks, that it is a track that can get an unexpected winner. No surprise to see Nick Ottinger into victory lane in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series, 13th on his career, as we go trackside and talk with the driver of the number 14 machine. Nick, congratulations on the win. First race out in a new ride with a new team, and you park it in victory lane. Congratulations.
Thank you, Evan. Man, I still got to wind down from that, man. That's honestly been 7-8 years in the making finally to at least just finish this Daytona race. We had a lot of dang teamwork from Team Connie basically all week, and really glad we could get Richmond Raceway the first start in the series, and we get top 3 in the race. I mean, that's just a testament to how well we worked just that whole race. I mean, it was exciting. I'd do everything just to check the line up so they wouldn't get a run. That whole last 2 laps, man, it was definitely intense in our Federated Auto Parts 400 Cameron tonight.
And you had to know that it was going to be coming. We restarted with 5 laps left to go. I'm sure you might have been just hoping they wrecked it back. You don't have to deal with it. But every single time by, Ian Schoenberg, did you have any idea on when that move for the 7 was going to come? Because a group of guys, a couple car links back, they were trying to get the outside going, but he waited until that last time at turn number 4 to try to get high on you.
Yeah, I think we just had that good of a car tonight, honestly, because I would move up to the middle lane, or be the outside, and we'd get a lot of steam going on the top side. And once we actually got the lead, we didn't lose it. I mean, I think it's just a testament how good our car was tonight at the Chaos Crew, and I mean that's just a testament of how Team Connie and us worked together this week. And I mean, I knew that move was coming from Brian regardless. Off of turn 4. It was hard to gauge how well the third guy was going to push him past me, but luckily it didn't hook us or nothing, and I mean we're all sitting pretty good at the end of that race.
This race was hardly served up to you on a silver platter either. You guys had to start right in the fray, 21st position. The yellow flags did mix up the fuel strategy a little bit, and of course that yellow at the very end set us up for what was going to be that thrilling finish. Just talk us through the night and how you guys were able to work with your teammates to get up to the front, to at least put yourself in position to be the guy up front that everybody was chasing at the end.
I know I'm wearing this out, but I mean, really a lot of it was the teamwork we had with Team Connie, with Michael Connie, Brian Schoenberg, and Brandon Hastings, working with Matt Holden and my spotter Justin Weaver. Like I said, it was a real team effort. I mean, we decided to try to stretch our fuel, and luckily we caught a pack that was pretty close together to where we could help improve our times over the guys that pitted like 5 laps earlier. It's just a real good effort between Matt Holden and Brandon Hastings on a strategy, and real good effort by Michael and Chaos Crew with Brian Schoenberg to help us out.
I know it's hard to gauge Daytona up against the other 17 races that we're going to have on the year, but what does it do for a team and a driver like yourself specifically to get a win right out of the gate?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a completely different track. Short track racing, I expect actually to be a lot closer. A lot more wrecks tonight. I mean, tonight's racing was pretty intense, and quite frankly, it was pretty dang clean for the most part. I mean, we had a couple, I'd say, close calls with a couple drivers, with Keegan, I think, in the lead. But I mean, that's fighting for real estate to be in the lead. So I mean, I expect next week to just be a lot more bumpers used and a lot more close racing.
We look forward to being at it again once more in 2 weeks' time. But Nick, congratulations on your win in the season opener. As well, thanks for giving us some time post-race to chat with us. And best of luck to you and the team for the rest of 2018. Hopefully, for your sake, we'll have many more opportunities to chat down the line.
I appreciate it, Evan. Thank you, guys.
Race winner from Daytona International Speedway, Nick Ottinger out of Claremont, North Carolina. Your winner tonight, the 13th win for him in his career in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Also down trackside is Randy Chadeth. He's standing by with your second place finisher this evening, Brian Schoenberg, who made a couple of moves but came home at the end of the day just 7/100 short.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Mr. Schoenberg. Brian, new sponsors on the car for you guys at the Chaos Crew, and you guys come out, put the car first, second, and fourth. First question I have to you, and that white flag flew. I'm sure you were thinking in the back of your head, I need to help my teammates, I need to help my teammates. How much of you in your mind were you thinking, I want to win this thing, Nick, you can finish second?
You know, that's an interesting question. I definitely did think about it. Crossed my mind a lot. I mean, obviously I've run this series for about 30 years and haven't found a way to win a race, and I thought, wow, look at that, it's right here in my lap. Go ahead and take it. But at the same point, we're going to have a new build before Phoenix, And I didn't like our chances of wrecking a corporate teammate with the Chaos Crew with Nick Ottinger, and we actually work with them with an alliance as well. So I didn't want to do anything risky, and especially with my teammate Michael Conti and my bumper, I didn't want to cost all of us a bunch of points for my own cause. But I definitely think taking the safer approach was the way to go here, because it's a long season. And getting a nice top 5 finish, a second place finish, is a great way to start it and a great way to have a lot of points and have a nice little buffer going into Phoenix, and it'll help you breathe a little bit easier. So I tried to get him off of 4 there, but then I thought, oh boy, we're going to wreck. So we were still trying, but at the same point, I'm not disappointed either. I'm just glad we finished and got a heck of a lot of points there. It feels great.
Over the course of this race tonight, we saw both the bottom and the top groove really come in. The upper groove had its moments, but it was pretty much the bottom fest all night long over the course of 100 laps of action. What you think is some of these guys who can make the top work? Some guys were better up there than others. What do you think they were doing to be able to be so strong in that higher lane?
Man, I don't know, because honestly, that's the best Speedway car I've ever run. Thanks to Brandon Hastings and everyone on this team. Last year I would have said that was the best car I've ever had on a plate track, and this one was definitely it. And our car was great. We got a little bit of right side damage though in that first wreck, and I don't know if I was really strong enough to run the top, so I just I went up there one time and Casey Kerwin went straight by me, and I said, okay, I'm not going to do that again. So I just held the bottom, and we just had a killer pit strategy. Brandon Hastings and my crew chief Patrick Ballet just did a fantastic job, and we gained probably about 15 spots with our pit strategy there. So it was just an unbelievable night. I mean, I'm just ecstatic right now. I really am.
Thanks for joining us, Brian. Congratulations to you and everyone at your team. We'll have another one of them along the way here as far as interviews go. But before we do let you go, plug time. Who gets it done for you guys?
Absolutely. Thank you. I want to thank everyone on the Chaos Crew. I want to thank Michael Waddle. I want to thank my sponsors, Heyman Hustle, the Looking for Larry Agency, SimSeats, Kicker Audio, and Reviver Entertainment, and just Brandon Hastings, Patrick Mallet. You guys were the best. What an awesome car. What a great way to start the year. Great pit strategy. Thanks to Michael Conti and just everyone on Team Conti. They're the best. And, they picked me up in the middle of last year, and if it weren't for them, I probably wouldn't even be in this series right now, and I wouldn't even be talking to you guys. So it absolutely means the world to me that they were able to keep me, and we did a good job the end of last year, and just that momentum's carried over to this year, and it's just a great way to start the year. So just thanks to everyone on Chaos Crew and Team Conti, Nick Ottinger, Matt Busa, everyone on their team. And also, before we go, I also want to thank the one person that picked me in fantasy. I'm glad I got you a lot of points. Think about Brian next time, folks. Hope you have a great evening, and just thanks for the interview, and thank you very much.
We have Team Clamp and, of course, Clamp Nation. We might have to start up Team Schoenberg for the fantasy points. But the 7 machine comes home in second. That's Brian Schoenberg. And moving on down the order, Evan, you're stood by with the biggest mover of the night. Christian Schallner put it from 34th on the grid, and he comes home in third tonight.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about the fact that talking with Nick Ottinger, he had to go 21st to first, and you look at Christian Challenger, who had his work cut out for him as well, plus 31 positions to get on the podium tonight, as we're trackside with the driver of the number 12 Toyota. Christian, congratulations on surviving the last lap. Not a whole lot of folks did. It was a very hard-fought race for you guys to go from basically all the way at the back to nearly all the way up at the front. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I couldn't really believe it after qualifying. So many times last year we would start in like P30 and stuff like that. Really didn't want to start off that way, so that was we didn't really start so good. And then just kind of I figured that if we made the right moves, picked a good strategy, we'd be able to get up there. And it was a real struggle at the beginning, because being that far back, I mean, if you're near the front and you move out to the outside line, you can get guys to work with you. But if you're at the back, you're in real danger of dropping so far that you'll just fall off the pack. So it was really tough. It just kind of worked out. I can't really say I expected it. I knew if we could get near the front, we could do something. And then at the end, I thought I saw that line moving. I was in 6th. Wanted to get a shout out for all my guys at Dynamic Autosports, so thought I'll take it to the top and we'll see if we can actually make it. And 2 places short, but pretty close.
Quite the effort for you guys, and there was a lot of folks up front, despite the fact that everybody got really shuffled out of order with the strategy, and then of course the yellow flag late. A lot of team cars up front working together, and you guys were able to put it into P3 and almost take it all the way to them. Just tell us about that move there, because we saw over the course of the race, you know, certain groups of cars working on the outside of the racetrack, working very well together. Some drivers struggling, even if they had a couple more cars up top. So just tell us about how you saw that over the course of the night, because you guys passed 31 cars to get up to where you finished, but of course just trying to time when to make that move at the end.
Yeah, I mean the timing of the move is really everything, and especially knowing how many people you've got above you on the track to do it. Like in the NIS races, I've been running them all week. I ran 3 of them, ran 1 fixed, 2 open, and the whole time I've heard people just complaining about the top line. But in 2 races, I moved 10 plus positions on the top line. It's just you got to have enough cars up there. It's got to be the right people up there, and there's a little bit of luck involved. Like that thing at the end, I saw everybody was formed up tight on the bottom. There's the car ahead of me had damage. I just figured that there was so much momentum on that top that I was going to be able to at least get 1 spot. So, and I mean, it's the last corner. I knew somebody was going to jump out, and I just thought if I jump out first, maybe I'll get to the line first.
You guys definitely gave them a run for their money late, and to get 3rd position at a race like Daytona, obviously, I know has to feel good. How do you guys approach a race like this? Because it's not in the middle of the season. We don't have a Talladega or a Daytona at any other point, so it's a race where I'm sure you would like to get points out of, but almost would be hard to expect it. So what does this do and kind of put you in a really good position for next week?
Yeah, I mean, especially Daytona, everybody knows that just because you get the fastest car doesn't necessarily mean you'll win. There's a huge amount of luck involved. Of course, it's always great to get started in a good way. I mean, we did the same thing last year. I think I was 4th last year, so one place better. Yeah, it's good not to be coming out of it in a hole. Whether that form continues on the other tracks is just something that we'll have to see. Approaching is kind of tough, especially the qualifying. The wind direction makes such a difference. Even if you got a great car, there's no guarantee of starting at the front. So there's a lot of luck involved. You just got a lot of practice. Definitely doing races helps a lot. So that's really the only way to do it. Just use NIS races to practice and turn up.
Well, it's always good when you guys are able to get a lot of points in the back pocket to get the year started out, and we will hopefully you guys see that continue when we get back at it in 2 weeks' time from Phoenix. But we'll let you take off, Christian. I know it was a long-fought night. Congratulations on the 3rd place finish, and thanks for letting us chat with you.
Thank you.
We'll continue things on. Michael Conti was in the mix. He finished exactly where he started, Randy, but somebody else who was in a great position to make something happen, and it's a P4 for the 6 car to open up the year.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Mr. Mike Conti, and Mike, there's a lot of Chaos crew and a lot of Team Conti guys up in the interview booth tonight, pretty much dominating the interviews. How strong? You guys were so good tonight. What'd you guys hit on to be so strong tonight?
Well, I mean, it was definitely a team effort for sure. All the Chaos crew cars worked extremely well together tonight, especially myself, Brian, Nick. Just seemed like the cars really paired up well. We got to the front pretty quickly, and we had a lot of speed to lead the line. So I cannot be happier with how this race went. Daytona is not one of my best tracks. I did DNQ here once, somehow, back a few years ago, so I am not the best here for whatever reason. But Brandon Hastings and Nick and Matt Holden and all of those guys did a great job working together the last couple weeks, and they put together one heck of a speedway car. So great to come out of the gates here for Mike at Richmond Raceway and Eric and Dan and Haley and everybody back at Forefront. Great to come out of the gates with a really solid finish tonight for the number 6 Forefront car. So I had a good time. I hope everybody watching did as well.
Hey, you say you're not very good around this place, but of the cars that were able to work the top, you were one of the best, and we saw that in the early stages where you and Ray were up there, and you guys pushed about 2 or 3 cars to the race lead, and were basically just isolated up there because someone would jump out of line, you'd get filled with a bunch of clean air, drop back a car or 2, and then someone else would jump out in front. A couple of your teammates, they couldn't make the top side work quite as well as you could. What do you think you and Ray were doing that made you so strong up there when you had to go up there?
I think a lot of it was just opportunity and getting runs at certain times and I mean, there were times where I didn't have anybody behind me up on the top, and I couldn't go anywhere either. So it was just all about knowing when to pull out a line, go up to the top. You'd really stay hooked to the car in front of you, or else it was hard to suck back up. So, I couldn't do it, obviously, without a great car. We didn't, myself, Brian, we didn't do very well in the Clash last week, so Hastings went back to work on it and did a phenomenal job, making some really, really good changes to get it better in the draft. Handled really well, was able to run way longer than anybody else on gas, kept the tires on it. Our strategy was superb. I don't think it could have been beaten. That last caution at the end there, was kind of unfortunate because we had a bit of a breakaway there, but either way it worked out. We got Richmond what they came here for, and that was cars up front. And I'm just so excited to see what this year brings, because we have never seen a racetrack put this much effort into a sim racing or esports series, if you will. So it's a big deal for NASCAR, it's a big deal for Peak, for iRacing, for everybody involved, and I'm just really glad to be a part of it.
Some of the plugs were there, but let's close it out and go down the rest of them. Who gets it done for you, Mr. Michael Connie?
Hey, we got a lot of people on board this year, thanks to Richmond. So I've got a little list here. Of course, Forefront, hashtag 5 to the forefront, or 6 tonight. Really, really happy to represent them and what they do. Kicker Audio, looking for Larry Agency. We found Larry, and he was up front tonight. Richmond Nation, Sim Seats, Reviver Studios, and the Heyman Hustle. So thanks to all of Richmond's affiliates for coming on board and supporting this deal. And we've got Phoenix coming up in a few weeks. I had a really good run there last year until I decided to bin it going into one with a few laps to go. So I'm going to try not to do that again this year. We're going to work really hard the next couple weeks, and hopefully we can get a Chaos crew back in victory lane again.
Michael Connie, ladies and gentlemen, past champion in this series, and he comes home fourth tonight. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Good luck to you at Phoenix. So, moving on, final interview of the night. 24 machine, Keegan Leahy. He led a lot of laps, comes home in the 5th position. Keegan, you were one of the dominant cars out in front. What did you have hitting on that 24 car that made you so strong?
Yeah, honestly, at the start of the race, I realized after my qualifying effort of 3rd, I knew I would be stuck on the bottom for most of that first part of the run. So I decided to run the lowest tape we can, 40%, covering the grill, and that just kept me from overheating for most of that first run, and even through the 2nd run. And I wasn't really able to keep the lead, but I was definitely able to push whoever was ahead of me to the lead. So that kept me up front pretty easy, kept me ahead of all the wrecks and all the trouble and all the potential for damage. So just trying to survive. Had a bit of an issue there in the middle of the race with our pit strategy. Decided to stay out under caution, so we ended up having less fuel than pretty much most of the field. I think there was about 8 cars on our strategy. So the guys that had full fuel there, they just had the advantage with being able to take less fuel and fewer tires on their pit stop during the green flag run. So yeah, we got really lucky with that caution at the end there to make up some ground. I moved up from 15th or something up to 5th. So yeah, it was a really good race for us.
Now, talking about that, I mean, you guys were, like you said, one of the drivers that went off cycle. Was that one of the most hectic plate race pit stops you've ever done, knowing that you're going to have to short fill and everyone else was going to short fill, and you're going to be in this weird situation where there are going to be cars who are up to speed, cars who weren't up to speed once everything came out? Because really the big thing, who decided the people who were in race winning positions, was that last round of green flag stops, even though it was a half dozen or so laps before we got that caution that brought us to that 5-lap finish. So how hectic was trying to plan and get things down on pit road, and how many people were involved with that, trying to calculate the numbers?
Yeah, it was just I'm only in TeamSpeak with 3 other drivers. We don't really have any crew guys right now, so we just kind of made the quick call to stay out because we knew it was going to be that one pit stop under green either way, so we thought that would be fine. We just didn't account for the fact that those drivers with full fuel were going to be able to have a shorter pit stop than us. So that's why they got that big advantage. We were kind of surprised. We thought we were supposed to be the leaders after it all cycled out, and it turned out they were, 8 seconds ahead of us. So yeah, it was kind of hectic. It was definitely a surprise when the cards fell into place, and yeah, it ended up working out, I guess. But Yeah, it was just a risk. We wanted to keep the track position, didn't want to get shuffled back in the pack, so just another risk-reward weighing type of decision.
Congratulations, Keegan, on starting out the championship on the right foot with a big top 5 finish tonight. Before we let you go, let us know who gets it done for that machine.
Yeah, virtual racing school on the hood and the quarter panel. Hope you get a picture of my car up because it looks really great. That's designed by Michael Gonzalez. And I really want to thank Chris Shearburn especially for all the help this week. He's a mad genius, I tell you. Like the things he comes up with, most of them are dead wrong, but when he hits on something, it's definitely right. So we picked up a bit of speed this week compared to our Road to Pro setup. And I'm also racing with Ryan Luza and Derek Bordeaux, and we were talking all race, and they were a lot of help.
Congratulations to you guys, Keegan. Once again, good luck out there at Phoenix in 14 days' time.
Great, thank you.
Well, Evan, that's all the interviews for tonight. There's a lot of happy people coming away that we talked to, but I'm sure a lot of guys we won't get the chance to talk to who are less than thrilled about the result this evening.
Daytona, ironically enough, it's about as far away in size comparison as you can get from a short track, but the sentiments kind of remain the same. If you don't win, you're a little bit bummed. I will say, though, for this race, a lot of cars made it to the end. We finished with 33 cars of 39 on the lead lap. That doesn't happen all too often at Daytona, so I think the folks up in front, especially the top 12, who all came across the start-finish line within 0.6 of a second of each other, going to be very happy to get out of this race, and most importantly, not have to use it for one of their drops. This is an extended schedule compared to what we saw last year, 18 races, 13 of which are in the regular season. As you use them to qualify into the playoffs, they're happy Daytona is not going to be their drop.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit during the race, but you're talking Phoenix coming up in a couple weeks. You have a couple other tricky tracks. You have Richmond, that's the 5th round of the championship. You have, of course, Sonoma, round number 9, that's in that sort of usual spree. You have New Hampshire, being just the format of it is sort of like a bigger Martinsville. Crazy things can always happen there. And then Pocono and Bristol, the last 2 races, those can always be wild cards. The fact that you can leave this race here at Daytona with your drop week still intact and have the ability to potentially use that at a place like Sonoma or Pocono or Bristol or a handful of those other sort of wild card tracks that we have through the first 13 rounds of the series, those are the guys that I think have a very good advantage, if not necessarily for the fight for the championship, at least being able to hold on to pro licenses once we get down really, really deep in the order. A lot of times things is one of the big deciding factors is who finished well at Daytona and who had to use a drop at Daytona.
Also want to thank all of our special guests who joined us on the broadcast tonight. If you tuned in late and didn't get an opportunity to hear from them, had a chance to talk with Chip Weil, president of Daytona International Speedway, Brian Emmerich, the chief marketing officer at Old World Industries, the folks behind the scenes who make everything happen at Peak, and of course Tony Gardner, president here at iRacing. So make sure you go back, listen to their insights. But we look forward now to 3 weeks' time, Randy. Phoenix International Raceway next up on the calendar.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I love the Phoenix International Raceway. It's a lot of people know that I was a road course racer on the sim for a long time, and when I do end up stepping into the stock cars, I love those sort of tricky circuits that don't run like the cookie cutters. Places like Phoenix, places like Pocono, places like Indianapolis. Because of that, Phoenix is one of my favorite places to race. It's just so much fun, and I think we're going to have a fantastic show once we get there on the 13th of March.
With all of that being said, round number 1 of 18 falls into our rear view mirror. Like we do every week, we got to say thanks to the folks behind the scenes who put all of this together. On a Tuesday night, camera angles provided by Estefan Abalo, broadcast CG by Simon Grossman, Kevin Papey, their entire team, Andy Werder on the graphics, and of course, Will Vincent, Hugo Louise, and the entire team at RaceSpot TV, Cisco Scaramuza, Drew Adamson running the social media stuff, and of course, for your team topside, on behalf of Randy Chennett and myself, Evan Pusoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate the Chaos Crew's Nick Ottinger for winning tonight from the Daytona International Speedway. Racing returns in 3 weeks' time on Tuesday, March the 13th from the virtual Phoenix International Raceway. That race and every race of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Until next time, good night from Daytona Beach.